Hey, wide awake family. If you see this, it's your sign to smash that like button. Yes, you listening right now. That way YouTube shows you more amazing stories like this one. We love you all. Now enjoy the stories.
The moment everything snapped wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, slow, and internal, like a realization spreading through my body instead of hitting my ears. I had been staring at my phone for a long time already, reading his messages, lining up the inconsistencies, building the courage to finally call him out. I thought I was prepared for excuses or denial. I wasn't prepared for what came next. We had been talking for a little over a month. Nothing extreme. Nothing obsessive. Just enough that he became part of my routine. Good morning messages, random check-ins, long nights where conversation drifted without effort. He felt steady, present, the kind of person who did disappear for hours and didn't flood you with attention either. His photos looked normal, not polished, not suspicious. Selfies in mirrors, outdoor shots, a few older pictures mixed in. Everything felt believable. I never thought to question them at first. What started bothering me were small timing things. Messages that responded to thoughts I hadn't fully typed yet. Jokes that landed too perfectly. Moments where it felt like he already knew where the conversation was going before I did. I told myself that meant chemistry. Then I noticed something else. He remembered details I didn't remember sharing. Not big ones. Small, specific things. The kind of stuff you assume you mentioned at some point and just forgot. The feeling built slowly. Not fear, just unease. Like standing in a room where the air pressure is wrong. One night, I finally asked him directly if everything he told me was real. Not accusing, just honest. I said some things didn't add up. He didn't dodge it. He didn't argue. He said I was right. That alone made my chest tighten. Then he sent screenshots. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It looked like a dating profile conversation. Two people flirting, familiar tone, familiar humor. I assumed he was showing me proof of honesty or something. Then I saw the photos. They were of me. Not ones I had posted recently. Not the usual selfies everyone has. These were different. Angles I didn't recognize. Lighting I didn't remember setting up. Outfits I owned but didn't remember photographing myself in. My heart started racing. I scrolled. More photos. Me in my live. Me sitting on my bed. Me leaning against a wall near my building. Me smiling in ways that felt slightly off, like the timing of the expression didn't match the moment. I felt dizzy. The screenshot showed a profile using those photos. A profile that had been talking to him. According to the timestamps, I had been flirting with him before we ever matched. I felt sick. I told him that wasn't possible, that I never made that account, that I did send those messages. He didn't argue. He showed more screenshots. Different days, different conversations, the same writing style he and I shared now, same pacing, same kind of jokes. But I didn't remember writing any of it. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. I went back through my own phone gallery, scrolled through everything, thousands of photos. None of the ones he showed were there. Not even variations. Nothing close. I asked him where he got them. He explained it slowly, like he was afraid of overwhelming me. He said he didn't think he was lying at first either. He said he assumed I was just using an alt account. Said people do that all the time. He said the account had contacted him first. Used my face, my name. Details that matched what I eventually told him later through our real conversation. The idea hit me like a wave. Someone had built a version of me before I even knew he existed. He said the account felt real. Consistent. Thoughtful. Then one day it stopped responding. Vanished. Weeks later, I matched with him as myself. He thought it was funny at first, like coincidence or a prank. Then the similarities kept stacking up. Same interests, same phrasing, same emotional beats. He said it felt like picking up a conversation that had paused instead of ended. That made my stomach twist. I tried to breathe slowly, but my chest felt tight. I asked if he thought I was lying to him. He said he didn't know what to think anymore. I asked if the photos looked real. He said they did. He said they looked like candid moments. Unposed. Natural. The kind of photos people duck fake easily. That scared me more than anything else. I asked if he had saved them. He said yes. I asked him to send them. When he did, I stared at each one like it might move if I looked too long. They were undeniably me. Same scar, same posture, same tiny details you can't fake easily. But I had no memory of taking them. The backgrounds made it worse. My live, angles that suggested someone else was holding the phone, moments that didn't feel staged. I felt exposed in a way I couldn't describe, like parts of my life had been observed and archived without me knowing. I asked if he had shared them with anyone. He said no, said he stopped talking to that account once it vanished. I believed him, not because I trusted him blindly, but because the fear in his messages felt real. We both sat in that realization together, separated by screens, both realizing we had been played in opposite directions by something neither of us understood. I thought about every app I had ever used, every permission I had granted, every time I had fallen asleep scrolling, every moment my phone camera could have been active without me noticing. My head started spinning. I told him I needed time. He understood. We stopped messaging for a day. That day felt unreal. My live felt unfamiliar. I kept catching myself checking mirrors, checking my phone camera, checking reflections in windows. I barely slept. The next morning, curiosity turned into panic. I searched my name online, reverse searched my face. I found more than I wanted to. A profile on a forum using one of the photos he sent me. Another on a niche app I had never downloaded. Same photos, same face, slightly different bios. It felt like I was watching copies of myself exist independently. I reported everything I could find. Some platforms responded, some did. Some said the profiles didn't violate anything. I messaged him again and told him what I found. He replied with something that made my chest tighten all over again. He said the account that used my photos had once sent him a message claiming to be me before I matched with him. Said it talked about feeling fragmented, about not remembering things clearly, about existing in pieces. I didn't know what to do with that. I blocked him eventually, not because he scared me, but because everything connected to that situation did. I deleted apps, changed passwords, covered my laptop camera, stopped posting photos entirely. Weeks passed. The copies didn't disappear completely, but they slowed. Sometimes I still think about those photos, the ones I don't remember taking. I try to picture the moments. I can't. The scariest part isn't that someone used my face. It's that the version of me they built was convincing enough to fool someone who later met the real me and couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. I confronted him about lying. He agreed. Then showed me I had been lying too without knowing it. I still don't know who made that account, or how, or why. All I know is that somewhere out there was a version of me living a parallel conversation I never consented to, leaving behind proof of moments I can't remember. And that feels worse than being catfished. I didn't realize I was talking to myself until the third photo. That's the part that messes with me the most. Not the first one, not the match itself, but the moment my brain finally caught up and everything dropped at once. It felt like stepping off a stair that went there. 1 second normal, the next your stomach somewhere else. I had just made a new profile on a different app because the old one felt stale. Same routine. Upload photos. Write a short bio. Promise myself I wouldn't get invested too fast. Swipe while half watching something in the background. I wasn't expecting anything special that night. Then she appeared. Her profile felt weirdly perfect. Not model perfect, but tailored. Same interests I had. Same jokes in the bio style I liked. Even the way she described her weekends matched mine in an almost creepy way. It felt like the app had finally figured me out. We meshed almost instantly. Her opening message was generic. It referenced something specific from my bio. Not just repeating it, but twisting it into a joke. I laughed out loud. That almost never happens. We started talking like we had skipped the awkward part. Easy flow. Same humor. Same pacing. She didn't overdo it. Didn't underdo it. She asked questions that actually made sense. Followed up later. Remembered stuff. I remember thinking this is dangerous in a good way. She sent a photo after a bit. Casual. Just a mirror shot. I glanced at it without really looking the way you do when you're trying not to seem too eager. Then I looked again. Something about it tugged at my brain. Not wrong exactly. Familiar. I told myself to stop overthinking. We kept talking. She sent another photo later that night. Different angle. Different clothes. Same tug in my chest. I finally zoomed in. My heart dropped so fast it almost hurt. It was me. Not exactly, not instantly obvious, but enough that I couldn't unsee it. Same jawline. Same scar near the eyebrow I got years ago. Same background plant I had in my old place. She had used one of my photos. Not just similar. Mine. I went cold. I opened my other app and scrolled through my own profile. There it was. Same photo. Same angle. Cropped slightly differently. Filtered just enough to soften features and shift tone. She had taken my photo and was sending it to me as hers. I stared at the screen, my brain scrambling for explanations that didn't make me feel insane. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe someone had copied both of us. Maybe I was tired. Then she sent another one. Also me. Different photo. Different day. Different outfit. One I remember taking because it took like 10 tries to get the lighting right. My hands started shaking. I didn't say anything right away. I needed to understand the scope before reacting. I scrolled back through her profile pictures carefully. All of them were me. Every single one. Some were cropped. Some flipped. Some filtered enough to blur gender cues slightly. Longer hair added, softer edges, but the bones were mine. The posture. The background locations. My old live. My current live. Places I recognized immediately. She was just using one photo. She had built an entire profile out of my online history. The realization hit me hard enough that I had to put my phone down for a minute. My chest felt tight. My thoughts were racing. Then the worst part clicked. She wasn't just using my photos. She was flirting with me using them. Sending my own face back to me with compliments. Talking about how she liked my smile. How she felt a connection. I felt sick. I picked the phone back up and asked her where the photos were from. I kept it casual. Light, like I didn't already know the answer. She responded immediately. Said they were hers. Said she hated taking photos but was trying. I asked if she had another one. Something different. She sent one within seconds. It was a photo I had never posted publicly. One I had only shared privately with someone months earlier. My stomach dropped through the floor. That meant this wasn't just scraping apps. This was someone who had access. I confronted her then. No anger. Just straight up told her those were my photos. The typing pause that followed felt endless. Then she responded like this was no big deal. She said she knew. She said that was the point. She admitted she had found my profile on another app first. Said she thought I was attractive. Said she was curious what it would be like if I was talking to myself without knowing it. She said she wanted to see what kind of person I was when I thought the match was perfect. My skin crawled reading that. She explained she wasn't trying to scam me or embarrass me. She said it was like an experiment. Said she wanted to understand attraction better. Said using my own photos removed bias. Removed bias. I felt dizzy. She said she edited them just enough to pass. Said people never looked that closely. Said she didn't expect me to catch it so fast. That hurt in a weird way, like she thought I wouldn't recognize my own face. I asked how she got the private photo. She said she knew someone who knew someone. Said it went hard to find if you knew where to look. Said people overshare without realizing it. I felt exposed in a way I never had before. Not just tricked, but dissected. She kept messaging like this was still a normal conversation. Asking how I felt about the idea. Saying it was kind of fascinating. Saying it showed how shallow apps were. She said the connection was still real. Said the messages we exchanged were genuine. Said she felt closer to me than anyone else she talked to. That part messed me up more than anything. Because the connection did feel real. And now it felt contaminated. I told her to stop messaging me. She did. She said she didn't understand why I was upset. Said I should be flattered. Said I matched with myself because I was my own type. That sentence echoed in my head long after. I blocked her. Almost immediately, a new account messaged me. Same writing style, different username, same tone. She said blocking her did change the fact that she already knew me better than most people. Said she had read through my old posts, my captions, my comments. Said she understood my humor because she had seen it from the outside. I blocked that too. Then another account viewed my profile. Then another. I shut everything down that night. Deleted apps, changed usernames, locked accounts. My phone felt like a threat instead of a tool. For days after, I couldn't look at my own photos without feeling weird, like they weren't fully mine anymore, like someone else had worn them. The part that still gets to me is how well she mirrored me. Not just with photos, but with conversation. She knew exactly how to talk to me because she was studying me first. I wondered how long she had been watching before reaching out. How many other profiles she had built like this. How many other people had been tricked into talking to a version of themselves without realizing it. Weeks later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched one of my old photos online. I found it on a different profile, different name, different app, same face. Mine. I reported it. It got taken down, but I knew that didn't mean much. Once something is out there, it doesn't go back. Sometimes I catch myself thinking about the conversations we had, wondering which parts were genuine and which were just reflections, wondering if she liked me or just liked controlling the situation. I still use apps now, but differently. Fewer photos, less detail, less of myself. The idea that someone could turn me into bait and watch me bite still sits heavy in my chest. I'd matched with the perfect woman. She was built out of me. The confession did come with drama. It came mid-conversation, dropped casually like a fun fact, and I remember rereading it 3 times because my brain refused to accept how normal he sounded saying it. My stomach sank before I even understood why. Some part of me already knew this was about to get worse, not better. We had been talking for a few weeks. Nothing wild. Nothing intense. Just late-night chats and dumb jokes that filled the quiet parts of the day. He felt familiar fast. Not clingy, not distant. He responded in a way that made me feel like I wasn't talking into a void. His profile wasn't flashy. Decent photos. Casual captions. No weird energy. If anything, he felt refreshingly boring, which I liked. Boring felt safe. We didn't match on a dating app. We met through a comment section that turned into DMs. He told me early on he didn't use dating apps anymore. Said they were a mess. Said people treated each other like disposable profiles. I agreed. That felt relatable. Over time, little things started standing out. He never wanted to move the conversation to a mainstream app. Said he liked keeping things low-key. Said he had bad luck with platforms shutting down accounts for no reason. I assumed he meant bots or moderation errors. I didn't ask too many questions. The night he admitted the truth, I was laying on my bed, scrolling aimlessly, half watching a video while messaging him. The conversation was light. Then he said he needed to explain something before things went any further. I expected a standard reveal. Maybe he was older than he said. Maybe he lived farther away. Normal stuff. He told me he had been banned from dating apps. Not shadow banned, not suspended. Permanently banned. He said that's why he had to get creative. My heart started racing, but I tried to stay calm. People get banned for dumb reasons sometimes. False reports. Misunderstandings. I asked why. He waited a minute before replying. That pause felt heavy. Then he said he could show me. I hesitated, a curiosity won. I said okay. He sent screenshots. At first, it looked like normal app messages. Then I noticed the dates, the number of reports, the warning banners, the account termination notices. The messages he had been banned for were there too. Not one, dozens. They showed conversations where he pushed boundaries hard and fast, where he ignored clear discomfort, where he kept going after being told to stop, where he framed persistence as confidence and refusal as playing hard to get. My chest tightened as I scrolled. There were reports attached, user complaints, timestamps, highlighted phrases flagged as violations. I felt sick reading them. What made it worse was how familiar his tone sounded, the phrasing, the pacing, the way he tried to twist things into his favor. I recognized it because parts of it matched how he talked to me, just toned down, cleaned up. He explained it away quickly, said people were too sensitive, said he was misunderstood, said apps punish honesty, said he was just being direct and people couldn't handle it. He said that's why he started catfishing, said if people didn't see his real profile, they wouldn't report him before getting to know him, said it was a workaround. A workaround. I sat there staring at my phone, my heart pounding. I felt like I had been slowly led towards something dangerous without realizing it. He told me he was being transparent now because he respected me, said he didn't want to lie anymore, said he trusted me with the truth. That framing made my skin crawl. I scrolled back through the screenshots again, noticing details I missed the first time. How often he was warned. How many chances he had been given. This wasn't one bad day or one misunderstanding. It was a pattern. I asked if he was still like that. He said he had learned, said he had adapted, said he knew what not to say now. That answer scared me more than if he had said no. It meant he didn't see the behavior as wrong, just ineffective. He said dating apps were broken anyway. Said real connections happen outside their rules. Said he wasn't dangerous, just misunderstood. My hands were shaking at this point. I felt stupid for how calm I had been earlier. I replayed our conversations in my head, noticing moments that felt slightly off but I had brushed aside. Questions that felt probing. Jokes that edged close to discomfort but stopped just short. He had been testing limits. I told him I needed space. His response came immediately, too immediately. He said he knew this would scare me. Said people always overreact when they see reports without context. Said he hoped I wouldn't judge him for his past. Past. Those screenshots weren't old. Some were recent. Days before we started talking. I felt a wave of anger cut through the fear. Anger at him. Anger at myself. Anger at how easily words like honesty and transparency had been weaponized. I told him I didn't want to continue. He didn't accept that quietly. He said I was proving the apps right. Said I was making assumptions. Said if I walked away now, I was just another person refusing to see the real him. That phrase again, real him. I blocked him. My hands were shaking so hard it took a few tries. I thought that was the end. It was. The next morning, I woke up to a message request from a different account. No photo. No name I recognized. The writing style was identical. Same rhythm. Same phrasing. He said he just wanted to clarify things. Said blocking was unfair. Said he deserved the chance to explain. I blocked that too. Over the next few days, more accounts popped up. Different usernames. Same tone. Same justifications. He never threatened. Never insulted. He framed everything as reasonable. Calm. Logical. That scared me more than anger would have. I locked down my accounts. Changed privacy settings. Removed old posts. Stopped sharing stories. My online life shrank fast. I kept thinking about those screenshots. About how many people had tried to warn the apps. How many conversations had ended with someone feeling unsafe enough to report him. And then he had simply stepped around the system. That realization stuck with me. Apps didn't ban him for being awkward or unlucky. They banned him because people spoke up. And instead of changing, he found a way around it. Weeks later, I got a notification from a platform I barely used. Someone had viewed my profile. The username looked random, but the bio phrasing felt familiar. I blocked it immediately. I still think about how calmly he showed me those screenshots, like they were proof of resilience instead of warnings, like surviving consequences meant he had won. The disturbing part was that he was banned. It was that the ban didn't stop him. It just made him smarter. The first moment of confusion hit me before disappointment did, and that part still messes with my head. I remember scanning the cave, looking for the person I had been talking to for weeks, and feeling genuinely lost. Not nervous lost. Actually lost. Like I had walked into the wrong place or the wrong time. I checked the address twice on my phone, then checked her last message again, telling me she was already there. She was. At least not in the way my brain expected. We met online through a normal app, nothing sketchy. Her profile stood out because it felt polished but not fake. Smooth skin, sharp features, a certain look that I didn't question because filters are everywhere now. I assumed light editing. Better lighting. Maybe a ring light. Nothing extreme. Her photo suggested a very specific look. Darker complexion, certain facial structure, features that pointed my brain in a clear direction without me consciously labeling it. It wasn't something I fixated on, just something I accepted as part of who she was. Our messages were solid, funny, warm, not clingy. She talked about family, food, music, dumb internet stuff. She sent selfies sometimes, always consistent. Same look, same vibe, nothing that raised alarms. We never video chatted. She said she hated how she looked on camera and preferred photos. I didn't push. That felt normal. When we decided to meet, it was casual. Coffee in the afternoon. Public. Easy. I got there early and sat near the window, watching people walk by, waiting for that moment of recognition. Then she waved. I didn't wave back at first because I didn't realize it was her. The woman standing a few feet away from my table looked nothing like the photos. Not bolder. Not heavier. Not worse or better. Just different. Different enough that my brain didn't connect the two versions at all. My first thought was that she was waving at someone behind me. Then she said my name. That locked me in place. I stood up slowly, my heart racing, trying to process what I was seeing without letting it show on my face. She smiled, clearly expecting a normal reaction, like this was just another first meeting. The difference wasn't subtle. It wasn't lighting. It wasn't angles. The filters she had used had completely altered how her skin tone looked, how her features blended, how her entire face read at a glance. The person in front of me belonged to a completely different category in my head than the one I had been imagining. My brain scrambled to catch up, trying to reconcile the two images. It felt like someone had swapped actors without telling me. We sat down and the awkwardness settled in immediately, not the normal first date awkwardness. Heavier. Sharper. Like I was constantly a half second behind the moment. I tried to focus on conversation instead of appearance. I really did. But my brain kept circling back to the disconnect. Every time I looked at her, it felt like I was meeting a stranger who had access to someone else's memories. She noticed. She asked if something was wrong. I hesitated, trying to choose my words carefully. I didn't want to insult her. I didn't want to sound judgmental. I just wanted clarity. I said she looked different than her photos. Her expression changed instantly. She leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms, her tone shifting from friendly to defensive in a heartbeat. She said everyone uses filters. She said I was being dramatic. She said I should have known. I tried to explain that it wasn't just smoothing or lighting, that the filters had changed how she appeared in a fundamental way, that I genuinely didn't recognize her at first. That made things worse. She accused me of being shallow, of focusing on surface-level stuff instead of connection. She said it was messed up that I cared so much about appearance when we had built something deeper. The way she said deeper made my stomach tighten. She said the filters just showed how she felt inside. Confident, pretty, powerful. She said the person online was the real her and the one sitting across from me was just the unfiltered version society forced her to show. I didn't know how to respond to that. My brain couldn't keep up with the emotional gymnastics happening in front of me. I told her I was upset about how she looked. That wasn't even the point. The point was that I felt missiled. She shook her head and laughed in a way that felt sharp. She said people always say that when they get caught being judgmental. She said it probably wouldn't have matched with her if she had posted real photos. That accusation hit hard because it put words in my mouth I never said. I felt my chest tighten. People around us were talking and laughing, completely unaware that my entire sense of reality had tilted. I tried to slow things down, suggesting we just talk it out calmly. But she was already spiraling into a speech about beauty standards, filters being tools of survival, and how men like me claimed to be open-minded but folded the second reality didn't match fantasy. I sat there listening, feeling smaller by the minute. What bothered me most was the filters themselves. It was a refusal to acknowledge the scale of the change. She was saying sorry. She wasn't even saying I get why that's confusing. She was framing my shock as a moral failure. I started feeling guilty for reactions I couldn't control. At one point, she pulled out her phone and showed me the app she used. Scrolled through different presets. With one tap, her face shifted into something closer to the version I recognized. Skin tone adjusted. Features softened and reshaped. Jawline changed. Eyes shifted slightly. Watching it happen in real time made my stomach turn. She smiled and said, "See, it's still me." But it didn't feel like her. It felt a mask being snapped on and off at will. I realized then that if I stayed, this would never resolve. I would always be the shallow one in her version of the story. My discomfort would always be the problem. I told her I didn't think this was going to work. She scoffed and said, of course. Said she should have expected it. Said I was just like everyone else who couldn't handle reality. I stood up, heart pounding, and told her I was leaving. She followed me out of the cafe, still talking, her voice rising as we stepped onto the sidewalk. She said I needed to check my biases, said I should be ashamed of myself, said she hoped I learned something from this. People walking by stared. I felt exposed and humiliated, like I was being publicly judged for a crime I didn't commit. I didn't respond. I just kept walking until I reached my car. My hands were shaking when I unlocked it. My phone buzzed immediately with messages from her, long paragraphs explaining why I was wrong, why she was right, why filters didn't change who she was. I didn't reply. Later that night, I scrolled back through her profile photos with fresh eyes. I could see it now. The consistent presets, the same lighting distortions, the same smoothness applied over everything. It wasn't just enhancement. It was transformation. Over the next few days, I kept replaying the moment my brain failed to recognize her. How jarring it felt. How quickly that confusion turned into guilt because she reframed it that way. That part haunted me more than the filters. I blocked her account after she sent another message accusing me of reinforcing harmful standards. I didn't have the energy to defend myself anymore. Weeks later, I saw her profile again on a different app. Same photos, same filters, same version of her presented confidently to the world. I wondered how many people sat across from her with that same stunned look. How many walked away feeling like villains for reacting honestly? Filters aren't just about looks anymore. Sometimes they rewrite the entire story and make you the bad guy for noticing. I knew the date was doomed the second I stood up from the bench and couldn't find him. Not because he was late, but because 3 different people waved at me and none of them matched a person I had memorized in my head. I had rehearsed that first look 100 times, the quick smile, the moment of recognition. Instead, I felt like I was playing a guessing game I never agreed to. We had been talking online for a few weeks. Not intense, not obsessive, just steady and casual. He seemed self-aware in a way I liked. Joked about therapy. Joked about being flawed. Said he valued honesty more than appearances. That line should have stuck with me longer than it did. His photos showed someone tall, lean, early 30s at most. Not a model, just confident. Good posture. Clean beard. The kind of guy who looked like he knew where he was going. Nothing screamed fake. Nothing screamed filter heavy. It all looked normal. He talked about going to the gym sometimes, but not being obsessed. Talked about work stress. Talked about wanting to meet in person without expectations. I appreciated that. It lowered my guard. We agreed to meet at a casual place near the park. Outdoor tables. Lots of people around. Easy exit if things felt awkward. I got there early and sat on a bench scrolling my phone, checking his last message that said he was already nearby. When I looked up again, a man was standing a few feet away, watching me with a smile that felt too certain. It took a second for my brain to catch up. He was shorter than I expected, not just a little. Enough that I noticed immediately. His hair was thinner, his face older, his body heavier. Everything about him was familiar in a vague way, like someone who resembled the photos after a long time and a lot of changes. My first thought was that I had the wrong person. Then he said my name. That locked it in. My stomach dropped, not because of disappointment exactly, but because of the disconnect. It felt like meeting a distant relative of the person I was expecting. I stood up slowly, forcing a polite smile, my heart already racing. I told myself looks aren't everything. Cameras lie. Angles matter. But this wasn't angles. This was decades and distance. He acted like nothing was wrong, like this was going exactly as planned. He gestured toward the table we had picked and started walking, assuming I would follow. I hesitated, then followed because I didn't know what else to do in that moment. We sat down, and the awkwardness settled in immediately. Not nervous awkwardness. Heavier than that, like something unspoken was already filling the space. I couldn't stop glancing at him, trying to reconcile the version I knew with the one in front of me. The longer I looked, the more uncomfortable I felt. He noticed. Instead of apologizing or acknowledging it, he leaned back and smiled like he had been waiting for this moment. He explained without prompting that photos don't tell the whole story, that people change, that what matters is emotional truth. He said the photos were emotionally accurate, that they represented how he saw himself and how he connected. That phrase stuck to me. emotionally accurate. He said he didn't lie, he curated. He said everyone does it. He said if he had posted photos that showed everything, no one would have given him a chance to show who he really was. My chest felt tight. I stared at the table, nodding out of politeness while my brain screamed to leave. I shifted in my chair, preparing to stand up. He leaned forward slightly and said something that made my blood run cold. He said I had agreed to meet him, and that meant I owed him the full date. He said it was fair to judge him in the first few minutes. He said walking away would say more about me than about him. The way he said it wasn't angry. It was calm, confident, like he was stating a rule. I looked around instinctively. People were nearby, laughing, talking, eating. No one was paying attention to us. The normalcy made it worse, like I was trapped in a bubble of discomfort no one else could see. I told him I wasn't comfortable. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just said I didn't feel right staying. He didn't accept that. He said discomfort was part of growth. He said attraction was shallow and unreliable. He said connection needed time to catch up to reality. He said if I left now, I would always wonder what could have been. Every sentence felt rehearsed, like he had used these arguments before. He reminded me of things I had said online, how I valued honesty, how I hated when people ghosted, how I believed in giving people a chance. He turned my own words into leverage. I felt stupid for ever typing them. My heart was pounding now. My hands were sweating. I hated that I felt like I had to justify myself to someone who had already crossed a line. I stood up again, this time more firmly. He stood up too. Not aggressively, just enough to block my path slightly. He said we could at least walk and talk, said sitting felt tense, said movement would help. I shook my head. I told him no. He sighed like I was being difficult, like I was ruining something reasonable. He said I was reacting emotionally, and that wasn't fair. He said he deserved the time because he showed up. That word deserved made something snap inside me. I stepped around him and started walking toward the park path where more people were. My legs felt shaky, but I didn't stop. He followed me. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to be there. He kept talking, his tone calm, trying to sound understanding while still pushing. He said he wasn't dangerous. He said I was overreacting. He said people these days don't know how to commit to discomfort. I stopped suddenly and turned to face him in the open, where others could see us clearly. I told him this was over and that he needed to leave me alone. For a moment, something dark flickered across his face. Frustration, maybe anger. Then it smoothed over into that same practiced calm. He said fine, said he was disappointed, said he thought I was different, said he hoped I didn't make a habit of judging people on appearances. Then he walked away like nothing had happened. I stood there shaking, my chest tight, watching him disappear in the crowd. I sat on a bench for a long time after that, trying to calm down. My phone buzzed with a message from him almost immediately. He said he hoped I got home safe. Said he wished things had gone differently. I blocked him without replying. On the way home, everything replayed in my head. Not just the difference in appearance, but the way he tried to trap me with my own values. The way he treated my discomfort like a flaw to be corrected instead of a boundary to respect. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. I looked at his profile again from a friend's phone. The photos were still there, unchanged, still presenting a version of him that didn't exist anymore if it ever had. I wondered how many people he had convinced to stay, how many had sat through full dates out of guilt or pressure, how many walked away feeling wrong for trusting their instincts. The next morning, I woke up to a new message request from a different account. No photo, just a line about emotional honesty. I blocked that too. For weeks after, I felt uneasy meeting anyone new. Not scared, just alert in a way I hadn't been before, like my body learned something my brain hadn't articulated yet. The worst part was that he looked different. It was that he thought consent was something he could negotiate once you were already there. Some lies aren't about photos. They're about control. The first red flag sounded exciting instead of dangerous, and that's what still messes with me. When she told me she couldn't video chat because she was in witness protection, my brain didn't go into panic mode. It leaned forward. It got curious. I remember thinking this is wild, but also kind of cool, like I had accidentally stepped into a movie without realizing it. We met online like usual. Nothing dramatic. She followed me, I followed back. Messages started after a story reply. She was funny in a dry way. Short messages, but smart. She didn't overshare. She didn't push. That made her feel more real than most people I talked to. Early on, she mentioned she kept a low profile, said she moved a lot, said she didn't like being on camera. When I asked why, she waited a full day before explaining. That delay mattered. It felt like she was deciding whether to trust me. When she finally told me about witness protection, she did dump details. She said she couldn't. Said she was supposed to even be on social apps. But loneliness makes people do dumb things. She said video calls were a hard no because cameras could expose her location or identity. I didn't know enough to question it. I read enough true crime stuff to know programs like that exist. The way she talked about it wasn't dramatic. It was tired. Like she was over it. She sent photos, though. Not many. Always cropped. Always slightly blurry. Different hair sometimes. Different glasses. She said she changed her look often. That tracked with the story. We talked for weeks. Late nights. Quiet check-ins during the day. She asked about my routine more than I realized at the time. What days I worked. Where I liked to hang out. When I was usually free. It didn't feel invasive. It felt interested. She never slipped. Never contradicted herself. Every detail lined up just enough to keep me from digging deeper. When she suggested meeting, I hesitated. I brought up the witness protection thing again, half expecting her to back out. Instead, she suggested a very public place. Busy. Neutral. Lots of people. She said she couldn't avoid living forever. We chose a coffee place inside a large bookstore downtown. Cameras everywhere. Open space. Nothing secluded. It felt safe. The day of, I felt nervous in a way I couldn't name. Not excited nerves. Heavier. Like my chest was full of static. I told myself it was just pressure from the situation. I got there early and grabbed the table near the front. The store was busy. People browsing. Kids sitting on the floor with books. Soft music playing overhead. Nothing threatening. She texted saying she was nearby. Then that she was running a few minutes late. Then nothing. I checked my phone every few seconds, trying not to look obvious. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. I was about to leave when I noticed two men walk in together. They didn't look like shoppers. Posture too straight. Eyes scanning instead of browsing. One of them made eye contact with me immediately and didn't look away. My stomach dropped. They walked straight toward my table. They showed badges. My brain went blank. Not panic, just emptiness, like someone hit mute on my thoughts. They asked my name, asked if I was waiting to meet someone, asked who. I answered honestly because lying didn't even occur to me. I told them her name, or at least the name she gave me. Their expressions didn't change, but something about the air shifted, like the conversation moved into a different lane. They asked how I knew her, how long we had been talking, what platform we met on, if we'd ever met before, if she had sent me photos, if she had mentioned anything about her situation. They didn't say witness protection. I did. That made one of them glance at the other. They told me she was not in witness protection. They told me she was a suspect in an ongoing investigation. Those words landed slow and heavy. They asked why I was meeting with her today, what we planned to do, if she had asked me to bring anything, if she had talked about money or travel. I felt my face get hot. My heart started racing. People nearby were definitely watching now. The normal bookstore noise felt wrong, like it didn't belong in this moment. I told them everything. Messages. Dates. The story she told me. The reason she wouldn't video chat. They took notes. One of them asked to see my phone. I handed it over without thinking. My hands were shaking. They scrolled through our messages carefully. Not skimming. Studying. Pausing at certain points. Especially where she asked about my schedule and favorite places. One of them asked if she had ever warned me about police, or told me not to trust them, or said she was being followed. She had. I remembered it suddenly. A message from weeks ago where she joked about always checking reflections. About not trusting uniforms. I had laughed it off as part of her story. It was a joke. They explained she had been using fake identities online to build relationships. Sometimes for cover. Sometimes to gather information. Sometimes just to stay ahead of people looking for her. They didn't tell me what she was suspected of. They didn't need to. The way they spoke made it clear it wasn't small. They said meeting her today could have complicated things. Could have put me at risk without me realizing it. That sentence made my legs feel weak. They asked if she knew I was there yet. I checked my phone. No new messages. One of them stepped away to make a call. The other stayed with me, watching the entrance. I felt I was floating outside my body, like this was happening to someone else. All I had done was show up for coffee. After a few minutes, they told me she wasn't coming. Said they had reason to believe she knew law enforcement was close. Said she likely bailed when she saw something she didn't like. They asked if I would be willing to give a statement later if needed. I nodded. I would have agreed to anything just to get out of that moment. They gave me a card and told me to reach out if she contacted me again. Then they left as quietly as they arrived. The bookstore noise rushed back in like nothing had happened. I sat there alone, staring at my phone, heart still pounding. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was her. She said something came up. Said it went safe. Said she gulped and understood. I didn't reply. I stood up, walked out, and didn't stop until I was 3 blocks away. The city felt different now. Louder. Sharper. Every person felt like a possible observer. When I got home, I blocked her account. Then another message came through from a different username. Similar writing style, same timing. I blocked that too. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. I searched her name. Nothing. Reverse searched her photos. Mixed results. Faces that didn't fully match. Profiles that went dead months ago. She wasn't one person. She was a moving target. A few days later, one of the officers called to follow up. Asked if she had reached out again. She had. They thanked me for cooperating. Said I did the right thing. I didn't feel like I did anything right. I felt like I had wandered into someone else's storm without knowing it was raining. For weeks after, I flinched when I saw cops in public. Not because I was guilty, but because my body remembered that moment at the table. The badges. The questions. The realization that I had been sitting in the middle of something real and dangerous without knowing. I still think about her sometimes. Not in a missing way. And how close was that way? How easily I accepted a story because it sounded interesting instead of impossible. The weirdest part is that I still don't know who she really was. Not her real name. Not her face. Not her role in whatever was happening. All I know is that I showed up for a date, and law enforcement was already there waiting. I knew the night was going bad before anything actually went wrong. It was that feeling you get when everything looks fine on the surface, but your body doesn't buy it. I was sitting across from him at a small late-night diner, one of those places with sticky menus and buzzing lights, telling myself to relax, telling myself this was just nerves. I had no idea I was about to watch 4 separate realities crash into each other in real time. We had been talking online for about a month. Not nonstop, not obsessive, just steady. He said he was single and had been for a while, said he hated drama, said he wanted something simple. I believed him because he talked like someone who would rehearse that answer. It came out smooth, confident, believable. His profile wasn't flashy. Decent photos, nothing too polished. Group pics with friends. Casual selfies. The kind of profile that doesn't scream effort. That made me trust it more. Our messages were easy. He asked questions, responded thoughtfully. Didn't rush things. Didn't push. When we finally planned a date, it felt natural, like the next obvious step. We chose a diner because it was public and chill. Not romantic, not loud. Just a place to talk. I got there first and slid into a booth, scrolling my phone, trying not to overthink it. When he walked in, he matched the photos well enough. Same height, same face, same relaxed walk. He smiled when he saw me and waved like we already knew each other. That calmed me a bit. We ordered food and started talking. The first half hour was fine. Not amazing, not awkward. Just normal. We talked about work, random internet stuff, places we like to eat. He laughed easily. Made eye contact. Nothing felt off yet. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it quickly, then flipped it face down on the table. Casual. I didn't think anything of it. A minute later it buzzed again. This time it was longer. A series of vibrations instead of one. He shifted slightly in his seat and cleared his throat. I asked if everything was okay. He said yeah. Just notifications. He smiled, but it didn't quite land. The buzzing didn't stop. His phone started lighting up every few seconds now. Notifications stacking. Screen lighting the underside of the table like a strobe. People a few booths over started glancing our way. He tried to ignore it, but his eyes kept darting down. His leg bounced. His smile tightened. Then his phone rang. He silenced it fast, almost dropping it in the process. His hands were shaking slightly. I felt my stomach sink. Not because I knew what was happening yet, but because I knew whatever it was small. The food arrived and sat between us untouched. The buzzing started again immediately. Finally, he picked up the phone and looked at it fully. I saw his face change in real time. Color draining, jaw tightening, eyes widening just a bit too much. Before he could flip it back over, I caught a glimpse of the screen. Multiple message threads. Different names. All active. All clearly upset. One of them had my name in the preview. My chest went cold. He noticed my expression and froze. There was a split second where we just stared at each other, both knowing something irreversible had happened. Then the phone buzzed again, and again. One of the messages popped up long enough for me to read part of it. It mentioned a date. Not tonight. Another night. Same place name we had talked about earlier in the week. Another preview mentioned screenshots. Another had a string of question marks and his name repeated. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The phone was doing all the talking for him. He finally admitted it was just me. Not in a dramatic confession, but in a quiet collapse. Shoulders slumping. Eyes dropping to the table, like the effort of holding it together was gone. He said he didn't think they would all figure it out at the same time. That sentence stuck with me. Not that he was sorry. Not that he messed up. Just that the timing was bad. He explained in broken pieces that he had been talking to multiple women at once. Different versions of himself. Different stories. Same photos. He said he kept them separate. Different apps. Different schedules. Until one of them compared notes. Apparently, one woman had seen a photo he posted that night. Recognized a detail in the background. Sent it to another woman she had been suspicious with. That woman sent screenshots. Timelines. Names. And then they found me. My profile had been public enough. My username showed up in a tagged post earlier that day. They put it together fast. My phone buzzed. I looked out and saw a message request from someone I didn't know. Then another. I opened one. It was from one of the women. She told me she was on a date with him last week. Same diner. Same booth. Same stories. She asked if I was with him right now. My hands started shaking. Another message came through. Another woman. She said she had been talking to him for months. Said he told her he wasn't seeing anyone else. Said she felt sick realizing she wasn't crazy after all. The third message came through while I was still reading the second. She said she was watching everything unfold in a group chat they had just made. Group chat. About him. About us. I felt exposed in a way I had never felt before. Like my private moment had been dragged into a room full of strangers without my consent. He sat there staring at his phone, getting message after message, not responding to any of them. The buzzing was constant now. Relentless, like the truth hammering its way out. People around us were definitely watching. The server hovered nearby, pretending to wipe a clean table. I stood up slowly, grabbing my jacket. My legs felt weak but steady enough to move. He looked up at me with panic in his eyes. Not guilt. Panic, like he was afraid of being alone with the mess he had created. I told him I was leaving. My voice sounded distant even to me. I walked out without waiting for a response. Outside, the night air felt heavy. I leaned against the wall of the diner, trying to breathe. My phone kept buzzing with messages from the other women. One of them asked if I was okay. That question hit me harder than anything else that night. I replied honestly, said I had just left, said I was shocked. They added me to the group chat. I should have declined, but curiosity and disbelief pulled me in. The chat was chaos, screenshots, timelines, photos, voice notes, everything laid out. Every lie he told, adjusted slightly for each person, phrases reused, jokes recycled. He had told us all he hated drama. The irony almost made me laugh. One woman posted a screenshot of him saying he wanted something serious. Another posted the same message sent to her 2 days later. Same punctuation. We compared dates, overlaps everywhere. One of them said she felt stupid. Another said she felt angry. Another said she just felt tired. I didn't know when I felt yet. After a while, the messages slowed. The initial shock wore off and turned into something heavier. We all blocked him around the same time, one by one. Screenshots confirmed it. His profile went dark. Photos gone. Username unavailable. But the damage stayed. I went home and sat on my bed, staring at the wall, phone silent for the first time that night. What stayed with me wasn't just that he lied. It was how easily he managed multiple realities. How he could sit across from me smiling, while 3 other lives were connected to the same performance. It made me question how many times he had done this before. How many other group chats existed somewhere with different names. Weeks later, I still think about that diner, about how normal everything looked from the outside. People eating, laughing, drinking coffee. And in one booth, a lie got so big it couldn't stay hidden anymore. Sometimes the truth doesn't come from a confession. Sometimes it vibrates its way out of a phone you can't silence fast enough. The first hint wasn't her face or her voice or even the way she dressed. It was the way she talked about time, like it was something she had already used up once and was budgeting carefully now. I didn't notice it right away. I was too focused on how normal everything felt walking into that bar, how relaxed I was for once, how nice it felt to think this might actually be a simple story with a normal ending. We matched online a few weeks earlier. Her profile said 26. The photos lined up with that. Casual outfits, good lighting, nothing flashy. She looked like someone who knew how to exist online without trying too hard. Our messages were easy. Not intense, not dry. She joked about work stress, complained about rent, talked about wanting to quieter live someday. It all felt age-appropriate, familiar. We agreed to meet at a bar near the river. Not a club, not a dive, just a place people went to talk without yelling. I got there early and grabbed a seat near the end of the bar, watching people come and go, feeling weirdly calm. When she walked in, I recognized her instantly. The resemblance to her photos was strong. Same smile, same posture. If anything, she looked a little more polished in person, but not in a way that raised alarms. She hugged me like we already knew each other, then slid onto the stool next to me like this was routine. The first drink arrived and conversation flowed. Work stories, random observations, the usual stuff. She listened closely, responded thoughtfully. She wasn't glued to her phone. She made eye contact. It felt good. About half an hour in, she mentioned retirement. Not in a joking way. Not in a distant someday way. She talked about it like it was a practical plan she had already thought through. Timelines. Percentages. How she wanted things set up before certain ages. I laughed it off internally, thinking she was just organized. Some people are like that. Ambitious, forward-thinking. Then she mentioned how she had seen friends mess it up in the past. Said she had watched people get burned by bad decisions years ago. Years ago felt vague, so I let it pass. The next comment didn't. She said something about how different bars used to feel back then, how the lighting had changed, how music volumes had shifted over time. She didn't say recently. She said back then like it was a shared reference. I paused for half a second, then convinced myself she meant early 2000s nostalgia or something she picked up from older siblings. People talk like that sometimes, but the pattern kept building. She referenced things with too much detail, specific brand logos that hadn't existed in decades, the smell of certain cigarettes before regulations changed, how cash registers sounded different. None of it was dramatic on its own. It was the accumulation that made my stomach tighten. I finally asked what she meant by back then, keeping my tone light. She smiled and pulled out her phone. She scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen toward me. The photos were old, unmistakably old, faded colors, rounded corners, hairstyles I had only seen in documentaries and old family albums. Grainy but clear enough. And there she was. Not as a kid, not as a teenager, as an adult. Same face. Younger, yes, but fully grown. Standing with friends in outfits that screamed the 1980s. Shoulder pads, high waists, thick frames. The background details lined up too. Cars, signs, everything. My brain stalled. She scrolled to another one, then another. Different settings, same era, same woman, same smile. She looked up at me casually, like she had just shown me a picture of a vacation from a few years ago. I didn't know what to say. My mouth felt dry. My heart was pounding, but my face tried to stay neutral. She explained it like it was no big deal. Said she didn't like lying, but people online made assumptions. Said age was flexible. Said she felt 26 in her head, so she went with it. Said numbers didn't really matter as much as connection. I sat there staring at the bar top, trying to recalibrate reality. This was a small lie. This wasn't rounding down a year or two. This was decades. She kept talking, filling the silence easily. Explained how she stayed current, how she took care of herself, how she felt more in sync with younger people now than with her own generation. She said she did see the point in limiting herself because of a birthday. The bar noise felt distant, muffled, like I was underwater. I thought about every message we had exchanged, every reference she made that I had glossed over, every time she sounded wise in a way that felt comforting. It all rearranged itself into a different picture. She was pretending to be younger in the sense of acting. She was editing history. I asked how old she actually was. She told me without hesitation. The number landed heavy. It was more than double what she claimed online. I felt something close to panic then, not fear exactly, but a deep wrongness, like I had stepped into the wrong timeline by accident. She didn't seem concerned by my reaction. She took another sip of her drink and talked about how people overreact when they hear numbers, how society was obsessed with age gaps, how she just wanted to meet people without bias. She said she had read enough psychology books to know that first impressions mattered more than facts. She said if she told the truth upfront, people wouldn't give her a chance to show who she really was. That part stuck with me, not because it was clever, but because it was practiced. This was her first time doing this. I asked how many people she had met like this. She shrugged, said enough, said most didn't mind once they got past the shock, said some even preferred it. My chest felt tight. My hands were cold. I realized I had stopped drinking and my glass was untouched. I stood up slowly, telling her I needed some air. She didn't protest, didn't reach for me. She just watched calmly, like she knew this was one of the outcomes. Outside, the night felt sharp and real. I leaned against the wall, breathing deeply, trying to ground myself. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Messages from her asking if I was okay, saying she'd go to bed wouldn't judge her too harshly. I didn't respond. I walked to my car and sat there for a long time, replaying the photos in my head, the way she had scrolled through decades like it was nothing, the way she carried those years so casually. The next day, curiosity got the better of me. I looked up some of the details she mentioned. Brands, places, events. They all checked out. She had lived through exactly what she claimed. That made it worse. This was delusion. This was a choice. I blocked her account later that afternoon. Then another profile popped up viewing my story. Same face, slightly different name. I blocked that too. I couldn't shake the feeling that she would keep doing this, adjusting numbers, swapping platforms, meeting people who had no idea they were stepping into someone else's long past. Every now and then I think about those photos from the 80s, how time had passed over her, but not through her the way it does for most people. How she carried it forward and dropped it on a bar counter like proof. I still go to that bar sometimes. Different nights. Different people. Every time someone mentions age casually, I feel a flicker of unease. Numbers matter more than people want to admit, not because of judgment, but because of honesty. She said she was 26. She wasn't even close. The first weird feeling hit me when I tried to save one of his photos, and my phone hesitated like it didn't know what to do with it. Not a glitch exactly, just a pause long enough for me to notice. I remember staring at the screen thinking that was strange, then immediately telling myself I was overthinking it. That pause ended up being the smallest warning I ignored. We had been talking for a few months, long enough that his face felt familiar in the way profile pictures eventually do. He sent photos regularly, sometimes random, sometimes posed. Nothing flashy. Always clean. Always consistent. Almost too consistent, but I didn't have the language for that yet. His messages were thoughtful without being intense. He paid attention, remembered things, reacted in ways that made sense. He was overly charming. That mattered to me. It felt balanced, like we were on the same level. He didn't like video calls much, said his internet was bad, sent photos instead, sometimes saying they were from that exact moment. Him outside, him in his room, him holding coffee. I believed it because why wouldn't I? Everything lined up. Then one night, while scrolling mindlessly, I saw a post about age-generated faces. The comments were full of examples. Perfect symmetry, strange lighting, eyes that didn't quite line up emotionally with the rest of the face. I felt my stomach tighten a little. Out of curiosity more than suspicion, I pulled up one of his photos and looked closer, really closer. Zoomed in. The skin texture looked too smooth. The background felt oddly blurred in places it shouldn't be. The ears didn't quite match. I told myself I was reaching, but I couldn't stop. I ran the photo through a detection site someone linked in the comments. I didn't expect much. I expected a maybe, a shrug. It came back high probability synthetic. My chest went cold. I tried another photo. Same result. Then another. Same again. I sat on my bed staring at my phone, heart pounding, feeling stupid for how fast my mind jumped to denial. I wanted there to be another explanation. Filters. Compression. Anything. But the pattern was clear. I didn't confront him right away. I needed to be sure. I looked up how faces are made, what signs to look for. The more I read, the worse it got. Every detail I learned matched him perfectly. No childhood photos. No tagged pictures. No friends commenting anything personal. Just clean images posted months apart like a catalog. The next day, I sent him what I found. Not aggressively. Just calmly. Screenshots. Links. An explanation that I was confused and needed honesty. His reply didn't come immediately. When it did, it wasn't defensive. It wasn't apologetic either. He told me, of course, the photos weren't real. He said that part was obvious. My heart dropped even further. Then he sent a link. No explanation, just a link. I hesitated before opening it. Something about the timing felt wrong, like he had been waiting to send this exact thing. I tapped it. The page that loaded looked clean and professional. Sliders. Thumbnails. Side-by-side comparisons. It took my brain a few seconds to understand what I was looking at. They were my photos. Photos I had posted over the years. Selfies. Group shots. Old profile pictures. Even one from a holiday I barely remembered posting. Next to each one was a generated version. Slightly altered. Same face. Same structure. Same expressions. But refined. Smoothed. Optimized. The site showed probability scores. Similarity ratings. Synthetic reconstructions. According to the page, my face had been used as training input. I felt dizzy. There was a section labeled Output Usage. It showed multiple profiles, dating apps, social platforms, all using variations of my face, all marked active. My hands started shaking so hard I had to set the phone down. He messaged again while I stared at the screen. He said it was fair. He said if he was fake, then so was I. He said faces are just data now. He said I should have known once I agreed to exist online. My throat felt tight. I tried to breathe slowly, but my chest felt like it was caving inward. I scrolled further down the page. There was a timeline. Dates, versions, notes about which variations performed better, lighting tweaks, expression adjustments. I saw my smile categorized. Something inside me cracked at that. I thought about how many times I had taken a photo, deleted it, retaken it, posted it thinking it was just for friends or random strangers scrolling past. I never imagined it could be lifted and rebuilt like this. He explained through messages that he did choose my face randomly. He said my photos were high quality and varied. Good data. He said my face worked well across models. His words felt clinical, detached. He said the person I thought I was talking to didn't exist physically. It was an account he maintained, powered by generated images and scheduled responses. He said he didn't need a real face because most people didn't meet anyway. Then he said the worst part. He said my face was more convincing than his ever could be. I closed the page and threw my phone onto the bed like it burned. My lip felt unfamiliar suddenly, like I was seeing it from the outside. My reflection in the mirror looked wrong. Too similar to what I had just seen reconstructed on that site. I picked the phone back up and asked him to take everything down. All of it. The generated profiles. The data. His response was slow this time. He said he couldn't fully. He said once data is out, it's out. He said he could stop using it personally, but others might already have copies. He said I should lock down my accounts if I was worried. Worried. I blocked him immediately after that. Then I blocked every account associated with him. Then I changed passwords, usernames, privacy settings, anything I could think of. But the damage felt permanent. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those side-by-side images. Me and not me. Real and optimized. I couldn't tell which one scared me more. The next day, I tried reverse searching my own face. I found things I didn't want to find. Profiles I didn't recognize. Faces that were mine but not attached to my life. Smiling in places I had never been. I reported what I could. Most platforms responded with automated messages. Some said they couldn't verify ownership. Some said the images didn't violate guidelines. It felt like screaming underwater. Friends noticed I stopped posting. I didn't explain why. How do you explain that your face doesn't feel like yours anymore? Even offline, I felt watched. When someone looked at me too long, my stomach tightened. I wondered if they were comparing me to something they had already seen somewhere else. Weeks passed, and the feeling didn't go away. I deleted old photos, then more, then almost everything. My online presence shrank until it barely existed. Sometimes I catch myself wondering how many versions of me are still out there, smiling, matching, talking to people who think they are connecting with something real. The worst part isn't that he was fake. It's that he showed me how easily I could be copied, replaced, improved, reused. I still have my face. I still live in my body. But something about it feels borrowed now. Like I'm just the original file in a world full of edits. I knew something was wrong the second the porch light turned on. Not flickered, not slowly warmed up, just snapped on like someone had been waiting with their hand on the switch. I was still halfway up the walkway, phone in my pocket, rehearsing how I would act casual when she opened the door. That light made my stomach drop in a way I couldn't explain yet. I remember thinking this is not how meeting someone who lives alone is supposed to feel. We had been talking for a while. Not rushed, not intense, just enough that it slipped into my daily routine without me noticing. She said she lived alone in a small house on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Quiet neighborhood. She liked the privacy. I liked that too, at least the idea of it. It made everything feel simpler. Her messages were warm but not clingy. She asked about my day, my plans. Dumb stuff that didn't matter but added up. She sent photos from inside the house sometimes. Couch. Kitchen counter. Backyard at sunset. Everything looked normal. Empty. Calm. We joked about how quiet her place must be. She leaned into that idea. Said she liked the silence. Said it gave her time to think. I never heard background noise when we called. No TV. No voices. Nothing. Looking back, that should have bothered me more. The day we decided to meet, she suggested I come to her place first. Said it was easier than meeting out. Said she would cook something simple. I hesitated, but she reassured me she would keep the door open, keep it chill. She said she didn't like crowds anyway. I drove there in the early evening, sunlight still out, trying to calm my nerves. The neighborhood was quiet in a way that felt staged. Neat lawns, cars parked evenly. No kids playing, no dogs barking. It felt like everyone was inside watching. I parked across the street and sat there for a moment, checking the address again. It matched. Same house from the photos. White siding, small porch, one window lit from inside. Then the porch light came on. I walked up slowly, each step heavier than the last. Before I could knock, the door opened. It was her. A woman older than I expected stood there, smiling in a polite but curious way. Not confused. Not surprised, like she had been expecting me. Behind her, I could see movement. More people. Shadows shifting. Voices muffled. My heart started racing. I asked if she was home, already knowing the answer would make things worse. The door opened wider. The living room was full. A man sitting on the couch. Another woman near the kitchen. A teenage girl leaning against the wall with her arms crossed. All of them looking at me. All of them silent. The girl looked like her photos. Exactly like them. Same face. Same hair. Same expression, just colder. More distant. The older woman stepped aside and motioned me in. I didn't move right away. My feet felt glued to the porch. Eventually, I stepped inside because leaving without understanding felt impossible. Like I would be chased by questions if I didn't at least try to get answers. The door closed behind me. The air inside felt thick, warm, crowded, not just physically but emotionally, like I had walked into the middle of something private. No one offered me a seat at first. They just watched me waiting. Then the older woman explained. She said she was her mother. She said she had been the one messaging me. The words didn't register right away. My brain tried to reject them, to twist them into something else that made more sense, but she kept going, calm and steady. She said her daughter had trouble talking to people, trouble trusting, trouble opening up, so she helped. At first just a little, suggesting replies, editing messages, then eventually taking over completely. She said she knew how to talk to people, knew how to listen, knew what men wanted to hear. She said she was protecting her daughter from getting hurt. I looked at the girl then. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She stared at the floor, jaw tight. The mother admitted she had been using her daughter's photos, said it was easier that way, said it kept things consistent, said she didn't think it mattered as long as the connection was real. Real. She talked about our conversations like they were shared accomplishments, inside jokes, late-night messages, things I had said when I thought I was talking to someone my own age, someone alone, someone choosing me. The father finally spoke up, backing her up, saying it was just a misunderstanding, saying they wanted to see if I was serious before letting their daughter get involved, saying they were being careful. Careful. The sister laughed quietly at one point, like this was all mildly entertaining. I felt my face burning, not just embarrassment, but anger and confusion tangled together. Every message replayed in my head with a new voice now. Older, calculated, practiced. I asked why the daughter never spoke for herself. The mother answered instead, saying she wasn't ready yet, saying she was shy, saying she needed time. Time that I had already given to someone else. Then the mother said the part that really broke something in me. She said she hoped I wouldn't mind that she continued messaging me sometimes, even after tonight. Said she liked our talks. Said it was nice having someone to talk to. I felt sick. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a family decision. A group effort. Everyone in that room knew. Everyone had been watching me walk into this blind. I took a step back toward the door. My hands were shaking now. I didn't care about being polite anymore. I didn't care about explanations. The mother looked disappointed, like I was failing a test she had designed. The daughter finally looked up then. Her expression wasn't apologetic. It was distant, like she was watching something end that she had never fully been part of. I turned and opened the door without another word. The cool air outside hit me like a reset button. I stepped onto the porch, heart pounding, and walked away fast. No one followed me. I got in my car and sat there for a long time, hands gripping the steering wheel. My phone buzzed with messages almost immediately. From her account, from the same typing style, asking if I was okay, asking if I understood, asking if we could talk it out. I didn't reply. On the drive home, I felt hollow, like something private had been exposed under bright lights. Not just my trust, but my vulnerability. My words had been read by people I never agreed to talk to. Analyzed, approved, passed around a living room. When I got home, I blocked the account. Then another message came through from a new number, saying it was just the mom checking in. I blocked that too. Over the next few days, I kept thinking about that house. How many messages had been typed from that couch? How many laughs were shared at my expense? How the silence I thought she lived in was actually full of people watching. The worst part was that she didn't live alone. It was that she never existed the way I thought she did. The person I connected with was a committee. I still pass that neighborhood sometimes. Every house looks the same. Quiet. Normal. But now I can't help wondering what's really happening behind those doors. Some places aren't empty, even when they say they are. The first time I felt something was off, it wasn't because of his photos or his messages. It was because of how defensive he got when I asked something simple. Nothing accusatory. Nothing dramatic. Just a question about a place in one of his pictures. The response came fast and heavy, like I had hit a nerve I didn't know existed. I brushed it off at the time, but that moment stuck to me quietly, waiting for everything else to catch up. We met online and it felt normal in the most boring way possible. No fireworks, no instant obsession, just steady conversation that filled gaps in my day. He was attentive without being overwhelming, funny without trying too hard, the kind of person you doubt question because nothing about them feels extreme. His photos stood out though, not in a flashy way. They were warm, candid, smiling in a way that felt genuine, the kind of face people trust without knowing why. I remember thinking he looked kind. That was the word my brain used. Kind. We talked for weeks before anything serious came up. Shared routines, random photos, voice messages here and there. He said he didn't like video calls much, which didn't bother me. Not everyone does. I didn't push. The connection grew quietly. Late night messages turned into long reading sessions where we scrolled through dumb stuff together. He listened when I talked about things that mattered, remembered details, followed up days later. It felt real enough that I stopped questioning it. Then little cracks started showing. His stories about his past shifted slightly over time. Nothing big, just details that didn't line up perfectly. A job timeline that moved. A memory that changed location. I noticed but didn't say anything. I didn't want to be that person. What finally pushed me was a reverse image search. I wasn't even suspicious when I did it. I was bored, scrolling, curious. I had read about people doing it and finding nothing, so I figured I would prove my own doubts wrong. I uploaded one of his photos and waited. The result made my stomach drop. The image led to an old memorial page, not a dating profile, not social media, a memorial. His face was there, smiling the same way, but the name was different. The dates were there too. He had died years ago. My hands went cold. My chest felt tight. I kept scrolling, hoping I was misreading something. More photos appeared, the same face, different angles, comments from friends and family talking about loss, about how much they missed him. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like I was looking at something I wasn't supposed to see, like I had accidentally opened a door into someone else's grief. I didn't know what to do with that information. Part of me wanted to disappear. Part of me wanted answers immediately. I didn't confront him right away. I needed time to think. I took screenshots, saved links, read everything I could find. The name on the memorial wasn't his, at least not the name he had given me. After a day of sitting with it, I sent him what I had found. No accusations, just proof. Links, screenshots. A quiet request for an explanation. The response didn't come right away. When it did, it wasn't defensive. It wasn't angry. It collapsed. His messages came in broken pieces. Typing pauses stretched long. When he finally explained, it felt like watching someone unraveled in real time through a screen. He admitted the photos weren't his. He said they belonged to his brother, his older brother, the one everyone loved, the one who always got attention without trying, the one who had died suddenly. He said after the funeral, people treated him differently, like he was invisible next to the memory of someone better. He said when he used his own photos online, no one stayed. Conversations fizzled. Messages went unanswered. Then one day, out of curiosity and grief mixed together, he used his brother's photo instead. And it worked. He told me people responded faster, warmer, deeper. He said it wasn't about tricking anyone at first. It was about feeling seen, feeling chosen. He said using that face opened doors his own never did. He broke down completely in his messages, admitted he hated himself for it, admitted he knew it was wrong, admitted he couldn't stop once it started working. He said every time someone liked him, it felt like borrowing a piece of his brother again. Reading that made me feel sick in a different way than anger would have. This wasn't just dissection. It was grief twisted into something ugly and manipulative. He said he didn't think it would go this far, didn't think he would care about me the way he did, didn't think I would find out. He told me he cried when I sent the proof, said he felt like he had been caught wearing someone else's skin. I stared at my phone for a long time after reading all that. My emotions felt tangled. Anger, pity, disgust, sadness, none of them strong enough alone to push the others out. I thought about the memorial comments I had read, people talking about the brother like he was still there, how proud they were of him, how much he was missed, and now his face was being used to build fake connections with strangers. I thought about every moment I had trusted that smile, how it wasn't just fake, It belonged to someone who couldn't consent to any of this. That part taunted me the most. I replied once more, not with comfort, not with insults, just telling him I couldn't continue, and that what he was doing was wrong in ways he probably couldn't fix easily. He didn't argue. He didn't try to convince me to stay. He just said he understood and that he was sorry. Then he asked if I wanted him to delete the account. The fact that he even had to ask told me everything I needed to know. I told him yes. I watched the profile disappear later that night. Photos gone. Username unavailable, like it had never existed, but I knew better. I couldn't stop thinking about the brother, about how his image was floating around the internet, detached from who he actually was, being used to pull people in. For weeks after, every time I saw a smiling profile photo, my chest tightened. I wondered who it really belonged to. Who else might be borrowing it? I felt weird grief too, not just for the lie, but for the version of him I thought I knew. Even knowing it wasn't real, losing it still hurt. Sometimes I wonder if he ever stopped, if he went back to using his own face, if anyone stayed, if he found another photo that worked better. I deleted the app not long after, not out of fear, just exhaustion. It felt like too much effort to separate real from borrowed. That memorial page still exists. I checked once more before forcing myself to stop. People still leave comments. Birthdays still get remembered. Love still gets posted. Somewhere, that face is frozen in time. Kind, smiling, real. And somewhere else, it taught someone how easily trust can be manufactured. The night it unraveled didn't start loud or dramatic. It started quiet, with my phone buzzing while I was brushing my teeth, the screen lighting up the bathroom like nothing was wrong. I remember staring at my reflection and feeling weirdly tired, like my body already knew something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. I had no idea that by the end of that night, I would be reading a consent form meant to explain why my trust had been dismantled on purpose. We met online in the most forgettable way possible. A reply to a story, a like on an old post, then messages that felt natural enough to not question. She came across thoughtful, curious, and observant. She asked good questions, not the boring ones, the kind that made me stop and think before answering. I like that. It made me feel seen instead of scanned. She told me she was studying psychology early on, not in a braggy way, just mentioning classes and deadlines and being overwhelmed. I didn't think much of it. Lots of people study psychology. It didn't feel relevant to us. It felt like background noise. Our conversations went deep fast, but not in a rushed way. It felt like we naturally slid into talking about fears, habits, stuff from childhood that usually stays buried. She remembered everything. Things I forgot I had shared weeks earlier. She followed patterns in my moves better than I did. When I was quiet, she did push. When I was talkative, she matched it. I started trusting her without realizing when it happened. There was a moment where I decided she was safe. It just became assumed. She sent photos that felt real. Not perfect. Bad lighting, messy hair. Notes in the background from class. Everything lined up. Her schedule made sense. Her stress made sense. Her personality felt consistent. Looking back, that consistency was the most unsettling part. We talked every day for months. Some days short check-ins. Some days long late-night messages where time blurred. I would fall asleep with my phone still open, waking up to paragraphs she had sent while I was out. She said she liked talking to me when things were quiet. I started rearranging my days around when I knew she would be free. I didn't tell anyone that part. It felt private, important. Then one night she said she needed to tell me something serious. I was sitting on my bed, lights off, scrolling back through our chat while waiting for her next message. My stomach felt tight, but I assumed it was just nerves. Maybe she was moving. Maybe she wasn't interested anymore. Normal worries. What she sent wasn't normal. She explained calmly that she had been talking to me for the reasons I thought. She said she cared about me in a way, but that our connection had another purpose. She said she was working on her psychology thesis and needed real-world interaction data. She said catfishing had been the method she chose. I remember rereading the message over and over, trying to understand the words individually because together they didn't make sense yet. Practice. Method. Data. Thesis. None of those belonged anywhere near my feelings. She said she had designed her online presence carefully, not to scam or embarrass, but to observe. She tracked how I responded to different types of support, how quickly I'd opened up, how attachment formed. She adjusted her replies based on what she learned about me. She said I had been a strong case study. My hands started shaking, not violently, just enough that I noticed. My chest felt hollow, like something had been removed without me noticing when. I scrolled back through our messages, seeing them differently now. Moments I thought were spontaneous suddenly felt calculated. Comforting words felt rehearsed. Pauses felt timed. She said she was sorry for the distress this might cause. She used that word, distress, like she was describing a lab reaction, not the aftermath of months of emotional investment. Then came the part that broke something in me completely. She asked if I would be willing to sign a consent form retroactively. She explained that for her research to be usable, she needed documented consent acknowledging participation, emotional impact, and awareness of deception. She said she understood if I needed time, but hoped I would consider it for the sake of her academic future. Attached to the message was a document. I opened it without thinking. My phone screen filled with formal language. Sections, bullet points, phrases about emotional manipulation, controlled interaction, and informed consent obtained after the fact. My name was already typed into the form. Seeing my name there made it feel real in a way nothing else had yet, like my identity had already been filed away. I felt sick. Not dramatic sick, quiet sick. The kind where your body goes cold and heavy at the same time. She continued messaging while I stared at the document, explaining safeguards, ethical review boards, how she would anonymize data, how my responses would be coded and not quoted. She said this wasn't personal, even though she also said I had been one of her most informative subjects. Subject. I sat there for a long time, phone in my hands, unable to respond. My mind jumped between anger and disbelief and embarrassment so fast I couldn't hold onto any one feeling long enough to process it. I thought about all the nights I had trusted her with things I had never typed out before, things I hadn't even said out loud. Those were data now, variables. I thought about how she'd always mean the right thing to say, how that one kindness, it was training. Eventually I stood up and paced my live, my footsteps sounding too loud in the quiet. Every part of my space felt exposed, like she had been there the whole time, watching through my screen. I went back to the messages and scrolled further up, noticing small things I had missed. Moments where she subtly redirected conversation. Questions framed in ways that nudged me deeper. Reassurance delivered right after vulnerability. It was all there. I just didn't know how to see it then. After a while, I replied. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I told her I wasn't signing anything and needed space. Her response came quickly, too quickly. She said she understood and respected my choice. She said she would exclude my data if needed. She thanked me for my honesty. She said she hoped I would be okay. That tone, calm, measured, the same tone she had used to comfort me when I was anxious months earlier. It made my skin crawl. Then she followed up with another message, saying if I changed my mind, the form would still be available. She said trauma responses can cloud judgment, and she didn't want me to regret a decision made under emotional strain. That was the last straw. I blocked her account immediately. Then I blocked again when a new message came through from an email address linked to the document. I shut my phone off and left it on my desk like it was something dangerous. That night, I didn't sleep. My brain kept replaying conversations, trying to separate what was real from what was constructed. I wondered which parts of me she had genuinely liked and which parts were just useful. The next day, I couldn't focus on anything. Class notes blurred. Sounds felt distant. I kept imagining my words highlighted in some paper, stripped of context, analyzed by strangers. A week later, curiosity got the better of me, and I searched her name online. I found her university profile, her program. A vague description of her research interests. Nothing specific enough to confirm anything, but enough to make it all feel real again. I never heard from her after that. No apology. No follow-up. Just silence. Sometimes I wonder if I was only one of many, if my reactions were compared to others, if my hurt was averaged out into a conclusion. I deleted the apps we met on shortly after. Not out of fear, just exhaustion. It felt like too much work to trust again, knowing how easily curiosity can disguise itself as care. Every now and then when I fill out a form online and see my name typed neatly into a blank space, I think of that document waiting for my signature. My name already there, like the decision had been made for me. I never signed it, but the damage didn't need my consent. The voice is what hooked me, not his face. Faces are easy to fake online. Everyone knows that now, but a voice feels harder to lie about. It feels personal, intimate. When someone sends you voice notes every night, it starts to feel like they are choosing you over silence, like they are letting you into the quiet parts of their day. That's what I thought was happening. I didn't know I was falling for something that had been bought and scheduled. We matched and talked like normal at first. Text during the day, nothing special. Then one night he sent a voice note instead of typing. It caught me off guard in a good way. His voice was calm, slightly deep, steady without trying too hard. He spoke slowly, like he was thinking while he talked. It made me stop scrolling and actually listen. After that, it became our thing. Every night, around the same time, a voice note would come through. Sometimes short, sometimes a few minutes long. He would talk about his day, random thoughts, things he noticed on his walk home. Nothing dramatic. That was what made it feel real. I started looking forward to them more than the texts. I would lay in bed with my lights off, phone close to my ear, letting his voice fill the room. It felt comforting in a way I didn't expect, like company without pressure. He didn't like calling Liv, said he got anxious on Liv calls, said voice notes let him think. I respected that. I told myself everyone has boundaries. He did send photos, though. Casual ones. Him at work, him outside, him with friends. His face matched the voice in my head, or at least my brain made it match. Weeks passed like that. Then months. The voice notes never stopped. Never slipped. Never changed tone. Always consistent. Always him. When we decided to meet, I wasn't nervous about what he would look like. I was nervous about hearing that voice in person. I imagined it would feel familiar instantly, like recognizing a song you've heard 100 times. We picked a small bar near the edge of town. Dim lighting but not dark. Music low enough to talk. I got there first and sat at a table near the back, heart beating faster with every person who walked in. When he arrived, I recognized him from the photos right away. Same build, same hair, same clothes style. Visually, nothing felt wrong. He smiled and sat across from me. And then he didn't speak. At first, I thought he was nervous. First date nerves can do that. I smiled, waited, gave space. He nodded when I talked, reacted with facial expressions, but he didn't make a sound. Minutes passed, then more. The silence started to feel heavy, like it was pressing down on the table between us. I kept talking to fill the gap, asking questions, telling stories. He responded with gestures. Nods, small shrugs. A thumbs up once. It felt strange, but I tried to stay patient. Then I noticed someone standing a few feet away, pretending to check their phone while clearly watching us. A guy about the same age as him. Similar features. Maybe a friend. Maybe a coincidence. After a bit, the guy leaned in slightly toward our table, close enough that only I could hear him. He didn't look at me directly. His voice was low and rushed. He told me the voice wasn't his. My brain didn't process it right away. The words landed but didn't connect. The guy kept going, explaining in quick fragments. The voice notes. The perfect tone. The consistency. All that belonged to someone else. A paid actor. He said they found him on Fiverr, someone who did voice work. Nightly messages. Customized scripts. Scheduled deliveries. Sometimes costing $25 per set, sometimes more if it was longer. I felt like the room tilted. The guy said it wasn't meant to go this far, said it started as a joke, said his friend hated his own voice, said people responded better to the other one, said it worked too well to stop. I looked back at the guy across from me. He wouldn't meet my eyes now. His face was red, jaw tight, hands clenched under the table. Everything clicked into place all at once. Why the voice notes never varied. Why he never stumbled over words. Why he avoided live calls. Why the timing was always exact. I thought about all those nights in my room, lights off, listening to a stranger's voice that wasn't even connected to the person I thought it was. The intimacy I felt was with someone who didn't know I existed. The friend stepped back after saying his piece, disappearing into the crowd like he had dropped a bomb and walked away. I sat there frozen, my ears ringing. The music in the bar felt too loud suddenly. Laughter from another table felt intrusive. The guy across from me still didn't speak. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he didn't know how to start now that the illusion was gone. I stood up slowly, my legs shaky. He reached out slightly, then pulled his hand back like he knew touching me would make it worse. I walked out without looking back. Outside, the night air felt sharp against my face. I took a few deep breaths, trying not to panic. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a notification from him. Probably a voice note out of habit. I didn't check. I walked until my feet hurt, then sat on a curb and stared at the ground. My head was full of his voice, the other voice, the fake one. It kept replaying in my mind, sounding just as calm as ever. When I got home, I opened our chat for the first time since leaving. There it was. A new voice note, sent minutes ago. Same length. Same timing. I didn't play it. I scrolled back instead, through months of audio messages. Dozens of them, all from the same hired mouth. All carefully crafted. I read old texts around them, seeing how the voice notes always came after emotional moments, like punctuation. I blocked him without listening to the last one. Then I blocked again when another account tried to follow me with the same profile picture but a slightly different username. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. I searched Fiverr for voice actors. It did take long to find someone who sounded exactly like him. Same cadence, same warmth, same pauses. His demo reel made my stomach twist. I learned that night how easy it is to rent intimacy, how cheap it can be, how someone can outsource the most human part of themselves and still get close to you. For weeks after, every voice note from anyone made me uneasy. Friends, family, even my own recordings sounded wrong in my ears. Sometimes late at night, I still hear that voice in my head. Calm, familiar, fake. I remind myself it never belonged to him. It never belonged to me either. The first message about the surgery came in while I was half asleep, phone lighting up my room like it was urgent enough to wake me on purpose. I remember the tone before I even fully read it. Rushed but controlled, scared but careful, the kind of message designed to make you sit up fast without thinking too much. My heart was already beating harder before my brain caught up. We had been talking for a few months by then. Not intensely, not clingy, just steady. She was good at that. She didn't overwhelm me. She didn't disappear either. She checked in, remembered what mattered, sent selfies that felt casual, not staged. Her face became familiar in the same way your feed becomes familiar, something you don't question because it's always there. She told me she didn't live near me, but not far either. A few hours. Close enough that we talked about meeting eventually, just never rushed it. She had reasons. Work. Family stuff. I did push. When she said she was in the hospital, it didn't feel fake. It felt inconvenient, like bad timing for something real. She explained there was an emergency surgery that couldn't wait, insurance issues, paperwork delays, all the boring adult stuff that makes life harder at the worst moments. She didn't ask for money right away. That's what got me. She vented. She worried. She apologized for stressing me out. I tried to comfort her. I said things I meant. I didn't think I was being manipulated. I thought I was being supportive. The money came up later, almost casually, like she hated asking, like it was embarrassing. She said she had already borrowed it from family, said she just needed help covering the gap. She told me the exact amount down to the smallest detail, which made it feel legit. It was $1,800. That number stuck in my head because it was big enough to hurt but small enough to feel doable. I had savings. Not much, but enough. I hesitated for a few hours, pacing my room, rereading messages, trying to decide if I was being generous or stupid. I sent it. The relief in her response came fast. Gratitude poured out. She said she didn't know what she would have done without me. She said she couldn't wait to pay me back. She said she wanted me to visit once she was out. That last part planted an idea in my head that wouldn't leave. The next day, she said she was going into surgery. She said she was scared. She said she would message when she could. I spent the whole day distracted, checking my phone between classes, imagining her alone in some sterile room. Hours passed. Then a message came through saying she was in recovery. Tired. Groggy. Thankful. Everything sounded right. That's when I decided to surprise her. I told myself it was romantic, supportive, the kind of thing people talk about later. Showing up when someone needs you. I didn't tell her I was coming. I wanted it to be a good moment. She told me the hospital name earlier, a big one downtown. I looked it up, grabbed my jacket, and headed out before I could overthink it. The hospital was bright in that cold way hospitals always are. Fluorescent lights, polished floors, the smell of cleaning stuff mixed with something sharp I couldn't place. People moved fast, but looked tired. I walked up to the front desk, heart pounding, feeling slightly ridiculous but also excited. I gave her name and said I was there to see her. The person behind the desk typed for a moment, then frowned, typed again, asked me to spell it. I did. Nothing. They checked another system. Same result. No record. No admission. No surgery. I felt embarrassed at first, like maybe I had the wrong wing or something. I said she had surgery earlier that day. Emergency. They shook their head slightly and said that kind of thing would just vanish from the system. A security guard nearby had been listening. He stepped closer and asked who I was there to see. I repeated the name again, slower this time, like clarity would fix it. His expression changed. Not surprised. Tired. He asked me to step aside with him, away from the desk. My stomach dropped. I felt like I was the one in trouble now. He asked how I knew of her. I said online. His face tightened just a little, like that confirmed something. He told me calmly that this was the first time someone had come looking for her. That name or variations of it. Same story. Surgery. Emergency. Money. He said they had a file. That word hit me hard. A file. He explained she was a patient. She wasn't even sick. She had been using the hospital as part of a long-running scam. Dozens of men. Sometimes more. She would rotate names, photos, small details, but the core story stayed the same. He said sometimes she used photos of real patients she found online. Sometimes stock images. Sometimes stolen selfies. She knew enough medical language to sound convincing, but avoided specifics that could be checked easily. My messages were evidence too. Screenshots I had sent, transaction confirmations, timestamps. All of it fit the pattern they had already documented. I felt like the floor had tilted under me, like the building itself wasn't stable anymore. He asked if I had sent money. I nodded. He asked how much. When I said $1,800, he didn't react. Not shock. Not sympathy. Just another number added to a list. He told me I could file a report if I wanted. He didn't promise anything would come of it. He said she was careful. Accounts got shut down. New ones popped up. Names changed. Stories recycled. He also told me she wasn't operating alone all the time. Sometimes it was a group. Sometimes just her. They didn't know for sure. I stood there holding my phone, feeling stupid and hollow. I scrolled through her messages while he talked, seeing them differently now. Every caring line. Every thank you. Every mention of pain or fear. It all felt rehearsed. I asked if she was in the building at all. He said no, she never was. She liked the idea of the hospital more than the place itself. It made people act fast and made them trust. I left without filing anything. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't feel pointless. I walked out into the parking lot feeling like everyone around me knew something I didn't. I sat in my car for a long time before turning the key. My hands were shaking. My phone buzzed with a message from her while I was still sitting there. She said she was feeling better. She said she missed me. She said recovery was rough but worth it. I didn't reply. On the drive home, everything felt too quiet, radio off. Windows up, my thoughts loud. I kept replaying how sure I had been, how proud I felt holding, how good it felt to be needed. When I got home, I blocked her account. Then another popped up a few minutes later with a different username with the same writing style. I blocked that too. Over the next few days, more appeared. Not directly messaging me, but viewing my stories, liking old posts, circling. I locked everything down. Private accounts, changed usernames, deleted apps for a while. The money never came back. I didn't really expect it to. What stuck with me was the loss, though that hurt. It was the idea that my care had been processed, categorized, reused, that my concern had been something she triggered on command. Sometimes I still think about that hospital lobby, how clean it was, how official everything felt, how easily a lie can borrow credibility just by standing next to something real. I never told anyone exactly how much I sent. I just said it didn't work out. That's easier. Every now and then I check my bank app and see the gap where that money used to be. It's a quiet reminder, not dramatic, just there. I didn't think much about the darkness at first. It felt intimate in a weird way, like a shared secret. Every time we FaceTimed, the screen showed mostly shadows and a soft outline of his face, just enough to make out a nose, a mouth, sometimes the edge of an eye when the phone shifted. He always said the lights in his room were bad, or he didn't want to wake his roommate, or he liked the calm of it. I accepted all of that without pushing. I told myself I was shallow. I told myself connection mattered more. We FaceTimed like that for months. Not every day, but often enough that it became part of my routine. I would crawl into bed, prop my phone against a pillow, and there he would be, a voice floating out of the dark. We talked about everything. Dumb stuff, serious stuff, plans, fears. I got used to the way he laughed, the pauses before he answered certain questions, the way he tilted the phone when he was thinking. I learned his schedule better than my own. Sometimes the calls felt different. Not bad, just slightly off. His energy would shift. His humor would change. One night he would be talkative and warm, the next more reserved, almost formal. I figured everyone had moods. I figured life happened off screen. He never showed his room, never walked around on camera, never turned on a lamp even for a second. When I joked about it, he brushed it off easily, said one day. Photos he sent were always stills, never videos, low-light selfies, angles that hid details. They all looked like the same guy though, same jaw, same hair, same tired eyes. I saved a few of them in my phone without thinking much about it. When we finally decided to meet, it felt overdue. We picked a weekend afternoon, somewhere public but not crowded. A boardwalk near the water with food stands and benches and people walking dogs. Daylight. Open space. No excuses for darkness. The morning of it, I felt nervous in a way I had before. Not excited nerves. Heavy ones, like my chest was full of something I couldn't name. I tried to shake it off while getting ready. I got there early and leaned against the railing, watching the water move slowly. Every person walking toward me made my heart jump a little. I kept checking my phone, half expecting a last-minute cancellation. Then I saw him. Or at least I saw someone who looked like him. He was walking toward me from the parking lot, hands in his pockets, head slightly down. In full daylight, his face didn't line up perfectly with the image I had built in my head. Close, but not exact. His nose was a little wider. His hairline a little different. His posture more stiff. I told myself cameras lie. Lighting lies. Nerves lie. He smiled when he got closer, and that smile matched. It was the same one I had seen flicker in the dark on my screen. That calmed me enough to step forward. Up close, though, the feeling didn't go away. It intensified. Like my brain was trying to solve a puzzle with pieces that almost fit, but not quite. We walked along the boardwalk together. Conversation flowed easily, which should have been comforting. Instead, it made a disconnect worse. His voice sounded the same, but his rhythm didn't. The way he emphasized words was slightly different. Pauses in different places. Laughter a beat off. I started noticing things I had ignored before. The way he avoided certain topics we had talked about a lot on FaceTime. The way he hesitated when I referenced inside jokes. Small stuff, but it stacked up fast. Halfway through, he excused himself to get a drink from one of the stands. I watched him walk away, trying to settle my thoughts. That's when I noticed another guy leaning against a nearby post, watching me. At first, I assumed he was just waiting for someone. Then he smiled. It was the same smile. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might be sick. The second guy pushed off the post and walked toward me casually, like this was normal. In daylight, the resemblance was impossible to ignore. Same height, same build, same face, just different enough to matter. Like looking at a reflection that had been slightly altered. The first guy came back then, drink in hand. The two of them stood near each other, and the truth slammed into me all at once. Brothers. Not just brothers, partners in something. The way they looked at each other wasn't confused or surprised. It was coordinated, practiced, like they had done this dance before. Everything clicked into place in a rush that made my head spin. The shifting personalities, the inconsistent energy, the reason the lights were always off. The reason he never moved the camera too much. It wasn't one person hiding their face. It was two people sharing one identity. I felt stupid standing there between them, heart pounding, trying to keep my expression neutral. People walked past us laughing, unaware that my reality had just split in half. They didn't deny it when I reacted. They didn't rush to explain either. It was like they were waiting to see how I would handle it. like my response was part of the plan. Through gestures and short explanations, it became clear how it worked. They shared accounts, shared photos, shared stories. One worked days, the other nights. They took turns FaceTiming, matching their voices and mannerisms just enough to stay believable. The darkness helped. Shadows smoothed over the differences. They said it started as a joke. Boredom. Curiosity. Then it kept going because it worked. Because I didn't question it. Because I liked them. That hurt more than anything. Knowing my trust was something they tested and maintained deliberately. I stepped back, needing space, my thoughts racing. My heart felt like it was trying to escape my chest. I wanted to leave, but my legs felt heavy. One of them reached out slightly, like he might touch my arm, then stopped himself. That tiny pause scared me more than if he had actually touched me. It showed awareness, restraint, calculation. I turned and walked away without looking back. I didn't run. I didn't want to draw attention. I just kept moving until the sounds of the boardwalk blurred together behind me. I sat on a bench near the parking lot and tried to breathe evenly. My phone buzzed in my hand. Notifications from the same account. Messages stacking up fast. I didn't open them. I stayed there for a long time, watching cars come and go, replaying every call in my head. Every moment I had brushed off as mood swings or bad connection. Every time I had leaned closer to my phone, trusting the voice in the dark. On the drive home, the world felt wrong. Too bright, too clear, like the darkness had followed me anyway. I blocked the account as soon as I got home. Then I blocked again when another username popped up that I didn't recognize but felt familiar. I turned my phone off after that and left it on my desk face down. That night, I kept thinking about how easily they switched, how natural it was for them to step into the same role, how many small details they had to track to keep it going. It wasn't sloppy, it was organized. Weeks later, I passed that boardwalk again with friends. I laughed. I talked. I acted normal. But every time someone walked toward me from the parking lot, my chest tightened just a little. Sometimes I still hear his voice when my phone rings. Sometimes I wonder which one I was really talking to when I said things I meant. The lights were always off for a reason. I just didn't understand how dark it really was. I should have known something was off the first time she corrected my spelling, like it mattered more than what I was saying. Not in a rude way, just precise, controlled, like details were her thing. At the time, I liked that about her. It made her feel put together, like someone who had their life figured out while I was still guessing most days. I didn't expect that same attention to detail to be the thing that dragged police into my night. We met online like everyone does now. No dramatic spark, just a normal follow or reply, then messages that slowly filled the empty parts of the day. She said she was a nurse early on, not bragging, just mentioning it like a fact. Long shifts, tired feet, weird schedules. I didn't question it. Lots of people are nurses. She talked about hospitals the way people talk about work when they're half burned out but still proud. She sent photos in scrubs sometimes. Nothing flashy, just bathroom mirror shots, badge turned the other way, hair tied back. It felt real. She complained about rude patients and vending machine dinners. I listened. I liked listening. It felt good being someone she vented to. After a couple weeks, the messages turned more personal. Not intense, just closer. She asked about my family, my plans, what I wanted to do with my life. She remembered things I forgot I had told her. When I took longer to reply, she didn't push. She just picked up where we left off later. We planned a date without much buildup. A casual dinner at a place near the river that stayed open late. I picked it because it felt safe and normal. Lots of people. Soft lighting. Nothing dramatic. She said she might be tired after work but still wanted to go. The day of the date, she messaged me saying she got off early. That felt lucky. I remember smiling at my phone like an idiot while getting ready. I got there first and grabbed a table near the window. The place smelled like fried food and lemon cleaner. I kept checking the door, half excited, half nervous. When she walked in, I recognized her immediately. Same face, same posture, same controlled smile. In person, she carried herself like someone used to being trusted. Shoulders back. Eye contact steady. She moved with purpose, like she always knew where she was going even if she didn't. It made me feel a little underdressed, a little younger than I wanted to be. We sat down and everything felt normal. Too normal. Easy conversation. Familiar rhythm. I relaxed without realizing it. About 20 minutes in, I noticed her glancing toward the entrance more than once. Not anxiously, just checking. I assumed she was watching for the server or maybe a friend passing by. I didn't think much of it. Then the mood shifted. The door opened and 2 uniformed officers walked in. At first, I barely noticed. Places like that always had random things happening. But her body changed instantly. Shoulders tightened, jaw clenched. The color drained from her face in a way that makeup couldn't hide. My heart rate picked up, not because I thought I was in trouble, but because I could feel her panic bleeding into the space between us. The officers scanned the room, then walked straight toward our table. People nearby quieted. Forks paused midair. I felt every eye drift our way. The officers stopped beside us and asked for her name. She gave it. Calm voice, steady hands. Impressive composure for someone who looked like she might pass out. Then they asked about her job. Everything unraveled fast after that. They told her she was under investigation for impersonating a medical professional. Not just lying online, but using the title in real settings. Giving advice. Wearing uniforms she wasn't licensed to wear. Apparently, it had been going on for a while. I sat there frozen, my brain struggling to catch up. Impersonating. Investigation. Real words with heavy weight. Then one of them mentioned me. They said my messages had been part of the evidence. Screenshots. Dates. Details about her claiming credentials. Things she said to me that I had taken as casual conversation. My stomach dropped through the floor. I felt exposed in a way I never had before. Like my private words had been printed and passed around by strangers in a room I wasn't allowed in. Like I had accidentally helped build a case without knowing it. She looked at me then. Not angry. Not pleading. Just blank. Like she had already accepted this ending and I was just another loose end. The officers asked her to stand up. She did without resistance. The scraping of the chair sounded way too loud. Someone near the bar whispered something. A phone came out. They guided her toward the door while explaining next steps. Handcuffs clicked on her wrists. The sound made my chest tighten. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just sat there staring at the empty chair across from me. Before she reached the door, one officer turned back and told me I might be contacted later if they needed clarification. Clarification. Like I was part of a project. Like this was all procedural. Then they were gone. The door closed behind them and the noise slowly returned to the room. Forks clinked again. Conversations restarted. Life continued like nothing had just happened. I sat there for a long time after that. The server came by and asked if I was okay. I nodded and asked for the check even though we had barely eaten. My hands were shaking when I paid. I walked out into the night feeling like I had stepped into the wrong version of my life. The air felt cold and unreal. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't check it. I knew it wasn't her. She wouldn't have it. On the walk home, everything she had ever told me replayed in my head. The hospital stories. The long shifts. The authority in her voice when she talked about health stuff. All of it was a performance. What scared me most wasn't that she lied. It was how easily she carried the lie. How natural it was for her to step into a role people trusted without question, including me. A few days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. They asked me to confirm some things. Timelines. How we met. What she claimed to do. I answered honestly. It felt like confessing, even though I had done nothing wrong. After that, silence. I never heard from her again. I don't know what happened next. Charges. Court. Nothing. She vanished from my life as suddenly as she entered it. I still think about that empty chair sometimes. About how quickly a normal night turned into something else. How easily I got pulled into someone else's false identity without realizing it. Now when someone tells me what they do for a live, I listen a little closer. Not suspicious exactly, just aware. Aware that some people don't just fake photos. They fake entire roles. My heart started racing then. My mouth went dry. My hands felt numb on the table. Before I could even process that, the door opened again. A third man stepped inside. This one moved slower, older maybe, heavier steps, but his face carried the same expression I had seen online 100 times. Not identical, but close enough to feel intentional. Like someone had studied a mask and recreated it 3 different ways. He joined us without asking. 3 men sat across from me, all positioned like they belonged there, like I was the odd one out. No one around us seemed to notice anything strange. The barista kept wiping the counter. A couple near the window laughed quietly. The world did pause for this moment, and that made it worse. My chest felt like it was caving in. I wanted to stand up, to leave, to do anything. But fear has a way of locking you in place when you don't understand the rules yet. They didn't argue over who was real. They didn't compete. They didn't explain right away. They just sat there, watching me react, like my response was the point. My brain tried to rationalize. Brothers, friends, some kind of prank. But nothing about this felt playful. There was no nervous energy. No cracks. Just control. The first guy finally leaned forward again, elbows on the table, hands clasped. He looked pleased, like he had been waiting for this. He made it clear without words that the person I had been talking to wasn't a single individual. It was shared, managed, rotated, sometimes one of them, sometimes another, sometimes more than one at the same time. They kept the tone consistent, the details aligned. They corrected each other quietly when needed. The idea hit me in waves. Every message, every late reply blamed on work, every sudden shift in mood. It all made sense in the worst way. The second guy pulled out a phone and unlocked it, turning the screen slightly so I could see. My messages were there, the same ones I had sent, my words sitting in a different hand. The third guy watched me closely, like he was studying how far I could be pushed before breaking. I felt small, not just physically, but emotionally, like I had been divided up and passed around without my knowledge, like trust was something they traded casually. They explained through gestures and short phrases that this wasn't about attraction. It was about access, about control, about seeing how long someone would stay when the ground kept shifting under them. I realized then that confronting him had been exactly what they wanted. My suspicion was a problem. It was an invitation. I finally stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. The sound felt too big for the quiet cafe. Heads turned. For a second, I thought that would snap the spell. It didn't. They didn't move to stop me. They didn't need to. The confidence in their stillness scared me more than if they had reached out. I backed away slowly, keeping my eyes on them, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. My legs felt weak, but they moved. Somehow they moved. I walked toward the door, every step feeling unreal, like I was leaving the stage after forgetting my lines. Outside, the air felt sharp and cold. My lungs burned as I took deep breaths. I didn't stop walking until I was halfway down the block. I didn't look back. I didn't know if they followed me. I didn't want to know. I ducked into a crowded bus stop and sat down hard on the bench, trying to blend in. My phone buzzed in my pocket almost immediately. I did check it. I didn't need to. I blocked the account as soon as I got home. Then I blocked again, and again. Usernames I did recognize. Numbers without names. I turned my phone off after that and left it face down on my desk. That night, every sound outside my live made me tense. Footsteps, car doors, laughter. My brain kept replaying the way they sat so comfortably across from me like they had done it before. I never found out how many there really were. 3 was just what showed up. The thought that there could have been more made my stomach twist. A week later, I passed that cafe on my way somewhere else. I didn't go inside. I didn't even slow down. I kept my eyes forward and my hands in my pockets. Some places stop being places after something like that. They turn into reminders, warnings disguised as buildings. I don't talk to people online the same way anymore. Not because I think everyone is fake, but because I learned how easily one person can be many without you ever knowing. I didn't notice it at first because it felt flattering in a way that made me stupid. My phone was always buzzing. Not constantly, but enough that I felt chosen. Like I was somehow doing something right without trying. When people talk about being lucky online, this is what they imagine. Attention without effort. Interest without awkward beginnings. I thought I had cracked some hidden code. It started with one account. Then another followed me. Then another liked an old post. Then another sent a message that felt too perfectly timed to be random. I remember sitting on my bed one night, phone lighting up the room, thinking this was just how things were supposed to go now. The first account felt calm and steady. She used mild-looking photos, but not the obvious kind. Clean lighting, simple outfits, nothing flashy. She asked about my day, remembered small details, followed up days later. I liked that. It felt grounded. The second account was more playful. Different girl, different vibe. Same apps though. She sent jokes, reacted fast, stayed up late. She felt spontaneous. I caught myself smiling at my screen like an idiot. The third one was quiet. Barely posted. Sent longer messages but less often. Asked deeper questions. That one made me open up more than I expected. I read back through those chats later and didn't recognize myself. By the time the fourth and fifth appeared, it didn't even feel weird anymore. It felt like a pattern. Like maybe I just had that kind of face or energy. I didn't brag about it. I didn't tell anyone. It felt too fragile, like if I said it out loud, it would vanish. The photos were all different. Different girls. Different styles. Different cities listed. None of them crossed paths publicly. No shared followers. No obvious overlap. I never compared them side by side because my brain didn't want to. I was enjoying being wanted in multiple ways. I noticed small things though. Tiny overlaps I brushed off. Similar typing quirks. Same emojis used the same way. The same phrases popping up weeks apart from different accounts. I told myself that was just internet culture. People copy each other. Trends happen. Weeks passed like this. My phone felt like a rotating door of attention. Some nights I stayed up juggling conversations, not because I felt pressure, but because it felt good. I wasn't leading anyone on, at least that's what I told myself. Nothing was official. Nothing was promised. Then one night everything slowed down. All 5 accounts went quiet at the same time. Not gradually, not one by one, just silent. Hours passed, then a day. My phone felt heavier without the constant buzz. I checked notifications more than I wanted to admit. I felt embarrassed about how much I missed it. 2 days later, one message came through. It was from the first account, the calm one. She said she needed to explain something. Not urgently. Not dramatically. Just enough to make my stomach sink. I sat on my bed again, same spot as before, but this time the room felt smaller. I read the message slowly, then read it again. She said she was who I thought she was. Not just in the normal online way, not filters or angles. She said the photos weren't hers. They were stolen from different model pages, curated carefully. My chest tightened, but I wasn't shocked yet. Disappointed, sure. Confused. But I thought it was just another catfish confession. Block and move on. That's what I expected. I didn't notice it at first because it felt flattering in a way that made me stupid. My phone was always buzzing. Not constantly, but enough that I felt chosen. Like I was somehow doing something right without trying. When people talk about being lucky online, this is what they imagine. Attention without effort. Interest without awkward beginnings. I thought I had cracked some hidden code. It started with one account. Then another followed me. Then another liked an old post. Then another sent a message that felt too perfectly timed to be random. I remember sitting on my bed one night, phone lighting up the room, thinking this was just how things were supposed to go now. The first account felt calm and steady. She used mild-looking photos, but not the obvious kind. Clean lighting, simple outfits, nothing flashy. She asked about my day, remembered small details, followed up days later. I liked that. It felt grounded. The second account was more playful. Different girl, different vibe. Same apps though. She sent jokes, reacted fast, stayed up late. She felt spontaneous. I caught myself smiling at my screen like an idiot. The third one was quiet. Barely posted. Sent longer messages but less often. Asked deeper questions. That one made me open up more than I expected. I read back through those chats later and didn't recognize myself. By the time the fourth and fifth appeared, it didn't even feel weird anymore. It felt like a pattern. Like maybe I just had that kind of face or energy. I didn't brag about it. I didn't tell anyone. It felt too fragile, like if I said it out loud, it would vanish. The photos were all different. Different girls. Different styles. Different cities listed. None of them crossed paths publicly. No shared followers. No obvious overlap. I never compared them side by side because my brain didn't want to. I was enjoying being wanted in multiple ways. I noticed small things though. Tiny overlaps I brushed off. Similar typing quirks. Same emojis used the same way. The same phrases popping up weeks apart from different accounts. I told myself that was just internet culture. People copy each other. Trends happen. Weeks passed like this. My phone felt like a rotating door of attention. Some nights I stayed up juggling conversations, not because I felt pressure, but because it felt good. I wasn't leading anyone on, at least that's what I told myself. Nothing was official. Nothing was promised. Then one night everything slowed down. All 5 accounts went quiet at the same time. Not gradually, not one by one, just silent. Hours passed. Then a day. My phone felt heavier without the constant buzz. I checked notifications more than I wanted to admit. I felt embarrassed about how much I missed it. 2 days later, one message came through. It was from the first account, the calm one. She said she needed to explain something. Not urgently. Not dramatically. Just enough to make my stomach sink. I sat on my bed again, same spot as before, but this time the room felt smaller. I read the message slowly, then read it again. She said she was who I thought she was. Not just in the normal online way, not filters or angles. She said the photos weren't hers. They were stolen from different model pages, curated carefully. My chest tightened, but I wasn't shocked yet. Disappointed, sure. Confused. But I thought it was just another catfish confession. Block and move on. That's what I expected. Then she kept going. She admitted she had been all of them. All 5 accounts. Every conversation. Every tone. Every personality shift. Every late reply and fast reply. Every joke and serious moment. All her. My head started spinning as the message went on. She laid it out casually, like it was a school project she was proud of. She said she wanted to see which version of her I liked most. Not physically, but mentally. Emotionally, she wanted data. She explained how each account was designed. One was supportive. One was funny. One was distant but deep. One was confident. One was needy. She adjusted them based on how I responded. Tested reactions. Tweaked timing. Changed interests slightly to mirror me. She said she had spreadsheets. That detail stuck with me more than anything. The idea of my words being logged somewhere made my skin crawl. Jokes I thought were spontaneous. Confessions I thought were safe. All sorted and compared. She told me which one I responded to fastest. Which one I opened up to most. Which one I flirted with more naturally. She told me which one won. It was the quiet one. Reading that made my throat tighten. That was the one I felt closest to. The one I thought saw me. The one I trusted. She said she was relieved. Like she had finally figured me out. I stared at the screen for a long time after finishing the message. My phone felt foreign in my hand, like it wasn't mine anymore, like it had been borrowed by someone else this whole time. I scrolled back through old chats with the different accounts. Patterns jumped out instantly now. Timing overlaps. Shared phrases. Similar reactions framed differently. It was obvious once I knew. Painfully obvious. I felt embarrassed. Not just tricked, but studied, like a lab rat that had been fed attention instead of food. I asked myself why I did notice, why I didn't question it harder, why I enjoyed it so much. The answers didn't make me feel better. Another message came in before I could even process the first one fully. She said she wanted to meet now, as herself. No fake accounts, no tests. She said she felt like she finally knew how to be what I wanted. That sentence made something in me go cold. It wasn't just manipulation, it was replacement. Like she planned to step into whichever version fit best and discard the rest. Like identity was a costume she could change depending on feedback. I didn't reply right away. I needed air. I stood up and paced my room, phone still in my hand, like if I put it down something else would come through and trap me again. I noticed how quiet my live felt without the constant notifications. How empty it was. How much space there actually was when no one was performing interest for me. I sat back down and typed a response. I kept it short. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I just said I wasn't okay with any of this and didn't want to continue. She replied almost instantly. She said she understood, then followed it with analysis. She broke down our response time, my word choice, said it matched the pattern she expected from the quiet account connection. She said even now I was proving her right. That was it for me. I blocked every account I could find. I searched usernames, old likes, comments. I blocked until my fingers hurt. I didn't know how many there really were. 5 was just what she admitted to. That night I barely slept. Every time my phone lit up from some unrelated app, my heart jumped. I felt watched. not physically, but emotionally. Like someone out there still had a version of me saved and labeled. Days passed. Nothing else happened. No new messages. No new accounts. The silence should have been comforting, but it wasn't. It felt like being dropped after being studied. Sometimes I catch myself wondering which parts of me were real during those weeks and which were responses to invisible pressure. Which jokes were mine. Which feelings were genuine. It's hard to separate when someone has been mirroring you so closely. I never found out who she really was. Age, location, real face. None of it. Just a presence that split itself into 5 pieces and wrapped itself around my attention until I could tell where it ended and I began. I deleted the apps a few days later. Not dramatically, just quietly. My phone felt lighter after that. Emptier, but lighter. Every once in a while I think about those spreadsheets, about my name in a cell somewhere, reactions quantified, preferences ranked, a version of me frozen in data. I hope she deleted it, but I don't really believe she did. The first bad sign was how calm I felt getting ready, like my body didn't even bother warning me. I remember looking in the mirror and thinking this was just another meetup, another almost relationship finally turning into something real. Weeks of flirting had blurred together into a routine. Notifications at night, dumb selfies during the day, long voice notes when we couldn't sleep. I thought I knew what his face would look like when I saw it in real life. I thought I knew the version of him that would step out of the car. I was wrong in a way that still makes my stomach tighten when I think about it. We matched randomly and it moved fast in that lazy way where neither person tries to slow it down. He said he worked long hours, said he felt younger online than he did in real life, which I took as a joke. The photos he sent were consistent. Same jawline, same smile, same messy hair. If they were old, they weren't old enough to matter. That was my logic. I read stories about catfishing and thought this wasn't that. I thought this was safe. We decided to meet near a strip mall on the edge of town, one of those places with a coffee shop, a thrift store, and a grocery place all smashed together. Lots of cars, lots of people, nothing sketchy. I figured public meant protected. I got there first and stood near the coffee place, pretending to scroll while actually watching every car pulled in. I kept checking the photos on my phone, matching them to strangers as they passed. It felt like a game. Then a van pulled up. It was old and scratched, parked farther away than necessary. The driver door opened slowly, like the hinge was tired. The man who stepped out didn't match the image in my head at all. My brain stalled, like it refused to connect him to the profile I had been talking to. He was older. Not a little. Not maybe. Older in a way that changed everything. Deep lines in his face. Thinning hair combed over carefully. Shoulders slumped like gravity had been winning for years. He looked around the lot like he wasn't sure where he was. I told myself he was lost. I told myself to stop staring. Then he looked straight at me and smiled. That smile was close enough to the photos to make my heart drop. It was like seeing a badly stretched version of the same face, familiar and wrong at the same time. He started walking toward me with confidence that didn't match his appearance, like he expected this to go well, like he had done this before. My body finally caught up to reality and everything in me screamed to leave. I took a step back, then another, already planning a casual exit. I reached for my phone to fake a call. He closed the distance faster than I expected. Up close, it was worse. The age gap wasn't something I could ignore. It wasn't even something I could rationalize. This wasn't weeks of flirting showing up a little older. This was a completely different stage of life standing in front of me. I couldn't look at him for long. My eyes kept drifting to the lines on his hands, the way his clothes didn't fit quite right, the faint smell of stale coffee clinging to him. Nothing about him felt like the person who had sent me late-night messages. My brain was already checking out, already deciding I was leaving when I noticed something else. His hands were shaking. Not nervous shaking. Something deeper. Something constant. That scared me more than the age difference. It felt like a crack in a mask. I shifted my weight, angling my body toward the street, ready to walk. I didn't even care about being polite anymore. I just wanted out. Then a car screeched into the lot. It came in too fast, stopping hard a few spaces away. The engine stayed running. A woman jumped out before the car even fully stopped. The sound she made cut through everything. Raw and loud and full of rage. Heads turned, people froze. Even the traffic noise seemed to dip for a second. She moved straight toward us, eyes locked on him first, then snapping to me like I was a target she had just spotted. The man stiffened, whatever confidence he had drained instantly. His shoulders hunched and his face changed into something smaller, meaner, scared. I didn't need words to understand what was happening. It clicked all at once in a sick wave. The secrecy, the timing, the way he avoided certain questions, the way his online life felt separate and hidden. This wasn't me that gone wrong. This was someone else walking into a mess that had nothing to do with me and somehow everything to do with me at the same time. The woman kept screaming about betrayal, about lies, about years, about messages she had found, about how I had ruined something she had built her life around. People started staring openly now. A couple near the coffee place stepped back inside. Someone across the lot pulled out their phone. I stood there frozen, my brain lagging behind my body. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to explain without explaining. I wanted to rewind the last month of my life. She got close enough that I could see her face clearly. Red, blotchy, eyes wild with hurt and anger mixed together. She wasn't focused just on him. She was focused on me. Like I was proof of something she didn't want to believe. My heart pounded so hard I felt dizzy. I took a step back and bumped into a parked car. The metal was cold against my hand. The man tried to move between us, not protectively, but defensively, like he was shielding himself from consequences. That alone told me everything I needed to know about him. The woman kept yelling. The words blurred together, but the meaning didn't. She thought I had known. She thought I was part of this. She thought I had done this on purpose. I shook my head over and over, even though I knew she couldn't hear anything I tried to say over her voice. Even though I knew it didn't matter. Someone from the grocery store came outside, drawn by the noise. Another person hovered nearby, pretending to look at their phone while clearly watching everything. The situation felt like it was tipping towards something worse. Not violent exactly, but unpredictable. Emotions were too high, too exposed. I finally snapped out of it enough to move. I pushed off the car and walked away fast, not running but not slow either. Every step felt heavy. I half expected someone to grab me. No one did. The screaming followed me across the lot. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I made it to the sidewalk and kept walking until the strip mall was behind me. My hands were shaking now. My legs felt weak. I didn't stop until I reached a bus stop bench a block away. I sat down and stared at the ground, trying to breathe evenly. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it. I already knew it would be him, or her, or both. I stayed there longer than I meant to, watching buses come and go, listening to the normal sounds of people going about their day while my own felt completely derailed. Eventually, I walked home, taking side streets, replaying everything over and over. The smile, the age, the look on her face, the way he shrank when the truth caught up to him. When I got back to my place, I locked the door and slid down against it, sitting on the floor until my heartbeat slowed. I blocked his account without opening any messages. I didn't want explanations. I didn't want excuses. I didn't want anything else from him. What stuck with me wasn't just the fear or the embarrassment. It was the realization that I had been a background character in someone else's collapse. A prop in a story that started long before me and would keep going long after. I never went back to that strip mall. Every time I passed it on the bus, my chest tightened a little. Some places just don't feel neutral anymore after something like that. I used to think nothing bad could happen to me because I was careful online. I checked profiles. I watched for red flags. I read people say, trust your gut, and I thought I did. That belief is the reason I still think about that afternoon more than I should. I was waiting on a bench outside a closed ice rink, scrolling on my phone, telling myself this was normal nerves and not a warning. 6 months of talking had led to that moment, and I kept replaying how confident I felt telling my friends I finally had a girlfriend. I didn't know I was about to meet 3 strangers instead of one. We met in a weird way. A comment under a gaming clip turned into DMs, then calls, then nightly reading sessions where we sent each other screenshots of whatever dumb thing we were scrolling. She sent photos early on. Mirror pics, messy room, posters on the wall. She said she lived with her aunt outside the city. The photos stayed consistent, Same face, same freckles, same crooked smile. I didn't feel rushed. 6 months felt like a long time, long enough to be real. The plan was simple. Meet halfway between our towns, hang out, eat, maybe walk around. I picked a place I knew well but wasn't crowded, an old shopping strip near the ice rink that barely anyone used anymore. I didn't want an audience if things were awkward. I got there early because that's how I am. I sat on the bench, and sweaty, phone battery already dying. The first thing that hit me was the car. A dark sedan pulled up too fast and parked crooked across 2 spots. That wasn't what I expected. She said she did drive. I figured maybe she got a ride. Then the doors opened. 3 people got out. The girl stepped out last. I knew right away something was wrong. Her face didn't match. Not a little different, not bad lighting different. It was like someone had tried to copy the photos from memory and messed up the proportions. Her hair was a different color. Her body shape was different. Even the way she walked didn't line up with the version of her I had built in my head. She wore a hoodie pulled tight like she was hiding inside it. The 2 guys flanking her were worse. One was older, late 20s maybe, thick arms, shaved head, eyes locked on me the second he saw me. The other was skinny, jittery, pacing already like he couldn't stand still. Neither looked surprised to see me, which made my stomach drop. I stood up anyway. I didn't know what else to do. Walking away felt impossible because my legs were buzzing like they might give out. They crossed the parking lot together, slow, like they wanted me to feel every step. Up close it got more uncomfortable. The girl avoided my eyes completely. She stood a little behind the older guy like he was a shield. The air around them felt heavy, like static before a storm. No one smiled. No one acted like this was a happy meeting. The older guy took the lead. His posture said ownership. Not just of her, but of the entire situation. I could tell he was mad before anything even happened. The skinny guy circled a bit, looking around, cracking his knuckles, scanning for witnesses even though the lot was empty. My brain tried to rationalize. Maybe her photos were old. Maybe the nerves were making me judge too hard. But none of that explained why she wasn't speaking or why she looked terrified. The older guy stepped closer than necessary. I could smell cigarettes on his clothes. His eyes flicked down to my phone, then back to my face. I realized then this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something planned. Without saying a word, he pulled out his phone and shoved it toward my chest. The screen showed screenshots of my messages. Paragraphs of dumb jokes, late-night confessions, plans we talked about. Things I only ever sent to her. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. The girl finally looked at me then, and there was guilt there. Real guilt. Not fear of him, but of me. Like she knew exactly what she had done. The older guy backed up a step and spread his arms like presenting evidence. The way he looked at me made it clear he thought I owed him something. Not money. Not apologies. Something physical. I started piecing it together too late. She went single. She never was. The messages weren't just flirting to her. They were leverage. Proof. Entertainment. Maybe she thought it was harmless. Maybe she liked the attention. But he took it personally. Deeply personally. The skinny guy stopped pacing and stood behind me. Not touching, just close enough that I knew I couldn't move freely. My chest tightened. I thought about running, but knew I wouldn't make it far. The older guy pointed at the girl, then at me, then at his own chest. The message was clear without words. He thought it had damaged something that belonged to him. He thought emotions were property. He wanted payment. My mind raced through every worst-case scenario I had ever read online. Abandoned lots. Strangers. Phones dying. I tried to think of anything to say, but remembered the rule I had made for myself reading horror stories. Never escalate. Never challenge. Never look tough. I held my hands up slowly, palms out, showing I was a threat. I nodded like I understood, even though understanding made me feel sick. The girl started crying silently, shoulders shaking, still not making a sound. That somehow made it worse, like she had already accepted whatever was about to happen. Then something small saved me. A car passed on the road behind the rink. Headlights swept across the lot for just a second. But it was enough to remind them we weren't completely invisible. The older guy glanced toward the road. His jaw tightened. He leaned in close to me, so close I could feel his breath. His eyes were wild, not drunk, not out of control, but focused in a way that scared me more. He wanted me to remember this moment. He stepped back suddenly and motioned to the car. The skinny guy moved away from me, disappointed, like a dog being pulled from a meal. They regrouped around the girl. Before getting in, the older guy pointed at my chest, then at his own eyes. A promise without words. The girl looked back one last time. Our eyes met for half a second. There was no apology there, just relief that it was over. They drove off fast, tires squealing slightly, disappearing down the road like nothing had happened. I stood there alone, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. My phone buzzed in my hand. A message notification from her account. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew whatever it said would just mess me up more. I sat back down on the bench and stared at the empty lot for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just felt hollow, like something had been scooped out of me. 6 months of my life collapsed into a few silent minutes. Eventually, I stood up and walked home the long way, staying on main roads, jumping at every sound. When I got back to my room, I blocked the account, deleted the messages, and turned my phone off. I didn't tell anyone what really happened. Saying it out loud made it feel unreal. Sometimes I still think about how easily it could have gone worse. How close I was to being another story someone else read online. All because I trusted photos and late-night messages from someone who never existed the way I thought she did.